Get my drinks all lined.
All right. Happy Friday, socialites. Welcome to the best damn social club in the universe. I am your host, Jedi ASU, and thank you so much for spending a portion of your Friday night with me and my fantastic guest. It's a little bit earlier than normal, but we've tried to shake it up. Just being a little consistent that it's always on a Friday, but that the chime change is a little bit different for you guys, especially on the East Coast, to enjoy and be a part of it as well. So as always, make sure you pour yourself a drink, sit back, relax, and let's get social. Today, it is Friday, December 18th in the year of our COVID 2020. And hopefully your feet hurt, because just like the tweet I put out there, hopefully your feet hurt because you kick so much ass. It's going to be a good conversation. I am particularly excited about this one. Jim Heilig is the starting center of the 1975 undefeated ASU Sun Devil team, and I met him during one of the Sparky Pep rallies that I was fortunate and blessed enough to host. And so he is joining us this evening. Let me bring you on here. Jim, how are you, my friend? Lovely to see you.
I'm doing great, Jedi. How are you doing?
Like you said, I'm just happy to be here, my friend. I'm happy to see your face. I'm glad we get to talk because I know your time was a little short on that Pep rally, so that's why I'm excited to have you on the show today.
Yeah, that damn 96 team sort of took the show over, you know. That's something we'll have to discuss at the next Brotherhood meeting up there at Sun Devil Stadium.
During the Legends Legend, we'll have that one as well. By the way, I know we were talking about this. Let everyone know what you are drinking tonight, my friend.
Well, I have one and only Jim Beam Devil's Cut. It's a good bourbon. I mean, I love it. So go out and get yourself a Devil's Cut. That's what it's all about.
It's actually, you know what, that should be the game day drink with all of us, you know, being especially what we've been at as well. And so everyone, thanks again. Make sure you follow on, let's see, Twitch, so Periscope, YouTube, and so forth. As always, we have everyone actually in the chat. So if you have any questions, make sure that you say hello to Jim and myself. And if you always have some questions out there for us, let us know. But I'm drinking a wine right now out of a mason jar because always trying to keep it classy here in the West Coast. And I'm going to move to some red wine in a little bit. But obviously, we are coming off a fantastic win over the other team down south. And it's actually, there's a one drink penalty. So if you say their name, you have to actually take a sip. So make sure you watch that.
I've only ever known them by one name, and that was Pussycat. So I don't know if that's a drink or not. But
no, that's fantastic enough. So that's good. So you got to watch it. We were talking about it as we were talking over the phone earlier this week. But your thoughts on the game?
My thoughts on the game were fantastic. I just wish they would have scored one more touchdown. It would have been nice. I'm sure you're aware they hold the record for the biggest margin of victory over us. They actually backed, and I can't remember the year. I think it was in the 50s. They scored 67 points on us to nothing. So we fell short of busting that record, but I'll take 70 points on those Pussycats down there.
Absolutely.
It was just great here. You know, being in Pennsylvania, we don't get those guys in your games until later in the evening.
Right.
So I got to get my Devil's Cut out and help me stay up a little bit and enjoy that. But I did celebrate a lot, yes.
That's excellent. And so fortunately it was on a network that we could all watch, and it wasn't on Pac-12 network where a bunch of people would have missed. One thing, though, that you brought up an excellent point about, even though the other school kind of outscored us in one previous game, and you're right, I think it was in the 40s or 50s.
Yeah.
Shane Dale is a writer in the Phoenix area, and he actually wrote 2 books about the Territorial Cup rivalry. The first one was called Territorial, and the second one was called Rich Rod Graham, right? Talking about the Rich Rodriguez series. And so he was tweeting some interesting bits during the game. And one of my favorites was that the other school had held the points total record over us since the beginning of the series until this game, meaning like ASU now has like 2,000 60 points in the overall series, and
Right.
the other school only has like 2,040. So this is the first time in the whole 93-year history that ASU has ever held that lead. So
Great. It's great then. I something great happened out of this bad, horrible year for us. That's
exactly.
awesome.
It was good to see. And also there's the participation. I mean, everyone saw the field, even the walk-ons were watching that. But I mean, I guess so what else did you kind of see that you like? What else did you notice having played the game? What did you like from a team perspective?
I'll tell you, we talked a little bit, Jedi, and I was telling you, I really feel bad for the team in the sense that I think they had the nucleus of having a really good team out there this year. And of course, all this COVID just destroyed not only our football season as well as many other football seasons, but a lot of things in life. But you know what? The great thing for me coming from especially that 75 team, and a couple of weeks ago when we were talking, perseverance. Yes, perseverance was one of the big things that Ron Woke and I both, in words, sum up the seasons of 96 and 75 was perseverance. And I was watching that game and thought, you know what? These kids could have easily folded. They played one game, right? One game.
Right.
And they went out then and played UCLA after 5 weeks. Was it 4 or 5 weeks?
4 weeks, yep.
And, you know, they should have beat Southern Cal. I don't give a damn. I'm sorry you're out in California, but they were the better team. You can
swear, by the way.
Okay, great. That's good. They should have beat that damn Trojan team. They were the better team that day. And that I would argue anybody. Then they got stuck and they couldn't play for weeks and weeks. And I'm telling you, as a player, you can practice against your scout squad. You can practice against. Normally, we never did, anyways. I should say, we got pissed off every now and then. Would run first team against first team, but you know, you just don't get the same look as game day. So ASU went for weeks without that being ingrained in those kids, actually playing teams other than their own self and going through that, where UCLA came into that game having run, I think they played 5 games up until our game. And so the first half of the UCLA game even was a little scattered for them, but I wasn't surprised because they didn't have that type of competition. But the second half they showed a lot. And you know what? They buckled their straps. They went down to that frickin' desert town down south of us, and they went into that frickin' old stadium and whatever, and they grabbed those cats by the tail and literally spun them around over their heads anytime they wanted. They literally kicked ass at U of A, and I loved watching it. And it showed me that my thoughts, at least, I think, had some substance to them, that this could have been a really good ASU team as far as wins and losses. I really do think that. But the encouraging thing to me is that they threw a stat up, and I'm sure, Jedi, you know all the stats, but that 68% of that team are underclassmen. And I was
Isn't that amazed. Brilliant?
Yes, and I was amazed at how many kids were sophomores and juniors that are coming back. So, with that being said, next year when the Pussycats come north, I think it's going to be the same, pretty much the same ass whooping going on there, as well as all the rest of the teams. I'm encouraged by what I saw. Your question.
Absolutely, and that's a brilliant point, right? Given that they're so young now. I mean, we're going to bounce back and forth, but what was your record against the other school?
Well, we never lost those guys.
Every year?
No, not when I was out there.
No, yeah. What years? So you never lost.
Well, I take that back. I think they did beat us in 74.
Okay.
I'm going back. 74 was one of those years you walk away from, and you go to hypnotist and you don't remember it, so you try to get stuff etched out of your mind.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think, and
it was one.
You were saying, building on that, I just wanted to say, I think that 75 through 79 stretch is the only other time that ASU had beat the other school 4 times in a row.
Yeah, but I will take Paul here, and I think now looking back, I'm pretty sure they did beat us in 74.
Okay.
Again, my mind's not there, but
we'll have someone
before that, to us. I think those 70 teams all beat them. I think that was in my heyday years of Frank Cush. I think that was 74 was probably the only loss we had to them. We had some great games, of course. My senior year, the 75 year, it was just a hell game we played with them. They were good. They were a good team. I won't say they weren't. They were a good team. The difference in that year was that they had a lot of upperclassmen playing. They really, going into that game, as a matter of fact, I was looking through my old scrapbooks, trying to refresh my memory on a lot of this, and they actually were, I think, a favorite team looking at everything because they had they had only lost one game going into that, and that was a whack game that they shouldn't have lost.
Right.
But they did. And where they were senior laden with a lot of returning players, we were a team of sophomores, literally. That's what we were. Yeah. It's one of the things that we'll talk about, I'm sure, if you want to hear. It's one of the things, that make the 75 team, to me, such a magical team was a big thing of the youth of us, how young we were at that time. So
right. And you were all young, like you said. Now, how was that coming into the 75 team? So the 96 team had shared a story that none of them went home. They all stayed in Tempe and they trained all summer together. Right after the semester ended, no one left. They all stayed together. They unified. What was your, spring, summer like before that 75 year as a team?
Well, going in 1973, they were 11-1, and they lost the game that they shouldn't have lost. And I can't remember what that. I think it was Utah that they lost to up there in Utah. But of course, they went on. They played Pittsburgh in the Fiesta Bowl and kicked their ass. Tony Dorsett at the time was a freshman, and but still a great run. But they beat that team, and 74 came around. We lost a lot of good players off of that 73 team. You're talking about Benny Woody Green, Danny White, just a host of good, great players that we lost. And coming into 74, a lot was hooked on, said, hey, this could be a good team, because we did also have a lot of back. And we started that year off pretty well, but there was one thing, and I have said it before in other articles at the time, in the time of 75, when you get interviewed by people, what's going to be the difference? And I can tell you, after the 74 season, which we were 7-5, which was the worst season that they've had out there under Frank Cush up till that time, we went into spring camp, and Mike Haynes and I have been elected by our teammates as offensive and defensive captains. And Frank took us both into his office before spring ball started. And 74 was a weird year because Frank was a I don't want to say tyrant, but he was a disciplinarian to the extent of the word. I mean, he did not tolerate. He used to always say, it's not a hard thing to be a good football team. What's hard is to be a great football team. And let me tell you the difference. The difference between being good and goodness and greatness is not physicality. It's in your head. It's in your mind. Because, all it takes is a stupid mistake of jumping off sides to nullify a 70-yard touchdown run to win the game. And Frank really lacks up. And his son Danny and I have talked about this, and Frank God rest his soul, when he was alive, we talked about it. Because Frank, after you left there, actually became a friend to you. And
Excellent.
yeah, and you know, I said, Coach, I'll never forget, before the 75 spring ball, leading up to the 75 season, you took Michael and I in your office, called us in, and you said, hey, I want you two to go back to that team, and you tell them that Mr. Nice Guy is no longer around. Because in 74, if you read articles about it, I'm sure you'll see, he became somewhat lackadaisical with us.
Interesting.
There wasn't all this shouting. There wasn't a lot of craziness going on, because it came off of 71, a 11-1 season, 72, another 11-1 season, 73, 11-1 season. He sort of eased up. And having been the starting center on 74 team in spring, it was a different vibe going out there, and we could feel it. You screw up where you initially go, where's the old man, and look around wondering where he's going to come and plant his foot in your ass. He wasn't around. He would talk to you. He would, now listen, this is what you need to do. In that 75 spring game, Frank had us in there, Michael and I, and said, you tell, and you say I can swear, right?
Oh, hell yeah, you can, please.
Okay. Frank said, you get out there and you tell all those son of a bitches that the prick is back. He goes, this is going to be the hardest. This is going to be the hardest, toughest spring ball of your life.
Wow.
And guess what? He followed through with that. But you know what the thing was, amazingly, and it's a difference in players, and I don't fault these young players nowadays. I know one thing for sure, they couldn't play under Frank Cush, most of them. I really believe that. And not in a degrading way. It was just the style of football back then. You messed up, and especially you made a mental mistake, such as me or any offensive lineman. He used to say, how the hell can you stand in a huddle and have a quarterback tell you twice what the count is? You turn around and jog 13 freaking feet and forget what the count is. He goes, you got your head up your ass, and I'm getting it out. And he would run you literally and practice till your legs collapsed. Wow. So the last thing you wanted to do was jump off sides or do something. You know?
Exactly.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
That's a brilliant way of putting it, though. I mean, it's like we just told you did. I mean, you didn't even go very far. It's not even. It's not even 5 yards. You're just right there. You heard it twice.
That's it. I mean, and the reality of it is, it makes total sense.
Exactly. That's 100% correct.
Well, and I think the mentality, Jedi, in 74, like I say, there was just a different vibe. In 75, spring ball, we knew what was coming, and he gave it to us.
Wow.
And after that spring ball, we had let me tell you, a brutal spring ball. People look today, and I just close my mind. I have to ask my old buddies like Steve Matlock and Eddie Kinney when I get with them. I go, hey, were there restrictions on hitting days for us? Because I remember scrimmaging every freaking day, man. What? Yeah. And they told me, yes, but I go, I can't believe that. How do you get away with that? Because we literally scrimmaged every day. And I mean a scrimmage. I don't mean pussyfooting guys around. If he saw you weren't going 100%, well, hell came down upon you. And
yes, so that you had everyone coming full blast, full tackle, full everything. It did met everything. Wow, that is wild, right? Because I mean, especially now, like, don't at spring you get injured, this and that, and everything else. But I mean, it's a testament to you practice hard, you play hard, right? And it absolutely gets you to that point because you're in that constant mentality.
Yeah, I'll give you a little point on that. I go out, I go out a lot for the spring games and such, and we were up a bigger year. I took a friend of mine out with me for a spring game. Then we had a golf tournament, and after the golf tournament, we'd always go back. They had a little feast there at the golf course, and then we would always end up around Lou had a great seafood restaurant there in in Tempe, Sifu U, and he had a big round table in his restaurant. So guys used to go in after the tournament. We go, hey, you going back to Ronnie's? Yeah, let's go back. Well, we called him Hop Sing. I don't know if that's politically correct, but back then we loved each other, and everything was all right.
Right.
Ron Lou, we would go to his restaurant, and we're sitting around the table, and Frank used to always do this. He did with seniors when you were playing for him as senior, and have an open stage. You could ask him or call him anything you wanted, and it wasn't held against you. But
okay,
yeah, you didn't have to fear about getting a foot in
right. You could go. That's funny.
But Mark Malone, the great quarterback for Pittsburgh Steelers, the great ASU quarterback, Mark was there sitting with us, and Mark asked Frank. He said, "Frank, let me ask you something. You know, when I went to Pittsburgh, I started talking to other rookies. You sit around and, damn, coach, those guys after the season started, they never hit. They didn't go through the rigorous shit they put us through." He goes, "What? Why did you do that?" And this was funny in a way. Frank looks at him and says, without skipping a beat, Frank goes, "Well, let me ask you something, Malone." He goes, "Well, I take that back. You were a quarterback. You wouldn't even get this." He said, but the rest of you son of a bitches," he goes, "let me ask you this. What game did you play in that was tougher than one of my practices?" And, we all, and there was about 20 of us at this table. We all looked at each other, and we were dumbfounded, but all the light bulbs were going off. I don't ever remember playing a game that was tougher than one of our practices.
Man, that's cool.
Yeah. And Frank
that's so cool.
He said, "You know what? The last thing I wanted you guys to think about was that you were tired. Oh, I'm tired. I don't have enough energy." He goes, "I wanted you to be completely focused on the plays, whether it's offense or defense, what your job at hand was, not your physical drained body." He goes, "So
right.
That's why we did it."
And it's like you said. I mean, it's true to the word that it's like you practice like you play. But I mean, like you said, you practice even harder than you played because, like you said, you were mentally. It was almost like a practice or a scrimmage, right? Because you've already done it all hard as hell before.
Exactly. And you're going to hear me say some things. I'm telling you what, and I want to set the record straight.
No, absolutely.
That when you were out there playing for that man, he wasn't your friend. You didn't really, at the time, we didn't really like Coach Bush. But I can tell you this, every guy that was there, we had a respect for him, a deep respect. And the two things can go together. You don't have to like somebody to respect somebody.
Absolutely.
And he did that. But the amazing thing, Jedi, I'll tell you, as you get older, and I think this is true of anybody. I mean, in your life, I'm sure, if people that are listening, their life, when you're 18, 17, 18, 19 years old, what the hell do you know? You just, you go to practice, you're playing Division I football. There's lots of girls around, all kinds of parts. You need somebody, at least we did. It was our character. We needed somebody. He walked to the room, everyone shut up and went, "Oh, shit, the old man's here." Stop. And he took complete control. But as we got older, we sat around, and even the guys that I always liked him, there was guys that couldn't stand him that now totally understand and respect him and give him thanks for what he did and how he shaped us as adult men and fathers and grandfathers and such. So it's a crazy thing.
That's so brilliant story because, I mean, I've heard that as well. I can't remember where else I've heard it, but just in conversations where, the former players always said, "I absolutely could not stand Coach Cush at times, just whatever it was in some way or anything else." But you just shared something very interesting. Once you graduated or you moved on, then he became your friend. It was a complete different relationship outside of the field, I guess.
Yes, it was. It did. And as the years went on, in his later years, Coach Cush was suffering with a lot of things, and it saddened a lot of us. Trust me, there was a lot of tears from grown men that man
Right.
put through the ringer on his passing, and in his later years, just watching him go down as he did.
Right.
And I say that with all respect, but it's just an unfortunate thing. But I think at the time when we talked about it, we would have ran through a wall. We would have sacrificed to not see him end his life in that way. And
Absolutely.
It was, for me personally, it was great that one of the last times I saw Coach at a spring game,
what year was
saw
that?
Danny. I saw Danny first. I can't tell you when that was, but
Okay.
that he died. I was out for a spring game, and I saw Danny, and I said, "Dan, where's your dad at? I want to say hi to him." I had just gotten into Tempe from PA, and he said, "Well, he's up there, Jimmy, with my family." He goes, "But I want to tell you, don't be upset if he doesn't remember you. He's at that stage in life, with this shit that's going on with him." So I prepared myself for that, and I walked up the steps, and there was sitting with Danny's wife and kids, and as soon as he saw me, "Jimmy, how the hell are you?" And you know what? Such a simple thing, but let me tell you, it meant the world to me.
I bet.
That my name is in his head. But then I'm thinking, is my name in his head because he really liked me, or I was such a pain in his ass? I don't know.
I'm sure it was a former, my man. I'm sure, because you were what? How many years did you start for him? And it was always at center? Did you always start at center, or?
Well, I came out. They recruited me in high school. I was a pretty good outside linebacker, defensive end. Now they call it a hybrid end.
Right.
That's what I did in college, and that's what my recruitment was all about, playing defense and doing that. In fact, when I came out in 71, that was the last year that freshmen were not eligible to play in varsity ball. Prior year was the unfortunate plane crash at Marshall, and
yes, sir.
the rest of that story. So the following year, they got in 71. They were petitioning that they needed to play freshmen, and they did. And I don't know the whole story on that, but the reason the NCAA gave them was they were afraid that 17, 18-year-old kids couldn't come in and play against 20-year-old young men, and without getting hurt. And Marshall didn't have any serious injuries, so the rest of the country said, "Hey, how about us?" And the rest is history. But I went out there as an outside linebacker. I started at that position and did well.
Okay.
And went in and was planning on doing that. I went through the spring ball and played that position, and then went to camp my sophomore year, beginning of my sophomore year. And about 3 days in, Frank pulled me aside after our morning drills and said, "Hey, Jimmy, I want to talk to you about something." Of course, when he called you by your first name with an IE on it, a Jimmy, a Bobby, whatever, Timmy, you knew something bad was following. Because because that name was only used when they recruit you. They treat you like you're their son. But once you get there, you become a horse's ass, a jackass, every type of ass there is in humanity. And he took me aside and said, "Hey, I want you to think about something. I'm thinking I want to make you a center for us." And Ron Lou was playing, but Ronnie had some problems, and he was afraid of him being injured. And the guy that I can't even tell you who his backup was at that time, but he said, he said, "You're tenacious, you're fast, you're quick off the ball." He goes, "And that's what we need at that position." He goes,
"Interesting.
I need someone to be there, and I think you fit right in." It was a hard decision for me, but I've always been about team all my life. And
of course,
I said, "Well, Coach, let me give it a try." And the rest is history.
Wow. So that just made it in. And that's so, obviously, you shared your story about when you met Juan Roque. He's probably one of the largest human beings you've ever met, right? At 60.
And he's an amazing guy.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so, having played, what was how tall were you and what was your weight when you were starting center? Just trying to get a gauge of what the size of the line was in 75 relative to, how it is nowadays.
Okay. Well, for a linebacker, I was a good size. I was 6'3", and I was playing at about 215.
Okay.
To move over to center, that's not too big,
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah. So, but I gotta say, back in those days, it wasn't actually real small because, Rick Bonas, who played for Nebraska in 75,
mm-hmm.
Rick weighed 220 and was a two-time All-American at that weight. He was
interesting
6'2", 220.
Okay.
And, so it wasn't overly small, but, that's going into the season. Mid-season,
Yeah.
I was 208 pounds or something like that.
Okay.
But I go back to that I did other things in high school, particularly I wrestled, and if you wrestle, there's a different mentality comes into your brain. So I never looked at my weight as being a disadvantage. It's just what's in your head and what, you're either going to win or lose. And I was never all that well of a loser,
right.
So I didn't like to lose. So.
And that's a brilliant thing. You having been in wrestling, right? Because I know how much it is about leverage and positioning and your feet and everything else. And I've talked with Kyle
Absolutely.
Murphy. He's talked about how important technique is, making sure your hips are in the right place, but your feet and everything else. And so, did wrestling really make that transition to a lineman easy, or did it help?
Well, it did. It did in the sense of what you're saying. I came back home and I coached a lot of youth football. In fact, I did it for 15 years.
Okay.
And I would always try when I had linemen, kids. Of course, everywhere I've never been involved with youth football, but of course, in what we call the pee-wee level, when kids are 7 and 8 years old, when you ask who's going to be a quarterback here, everyone's hand goes up. Who's going to be a lineman? And your heaviest kids, they just sit there and look at you, and you go, "Well, guys, we need a lineman here."
Right.
But as they got older, I would encourage their fathers, especially on the bigger kids, to tell them, "Look, get this kid involved in wrestling. Whether he succeeds, it's not why you're doing it. He's going to learn foot speed. He's going to learn hand speed. He's going to learn all those quick moves that will help him out in his position in football." To do that. So yeah, it definitely helps. And I'll tell you a guy, who's the guy from Pittsburgh that's now killing it with the Rams? Donaldson from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
You know what I mean? The defensive tackle.
Go ahead. I know the name.
He's just like killing things. He gives all the credit. He said, "Hey, I wrestled all through high school," and he said, because they say about how quick he is off the ball, his hands and he's by you. And he said, "That's all wrestling. That's wrestling." So
that's wild.
Definitely helps. Yeah, for sure.
Now, is that a winter sport or is that a fall sport? I can't remember.
It's winter sport.
Because that was it's interesting, because it's always, given what you've been able to do, being a dual sport athlete, right? And how everyone's looking for a dual sport athlete as well. And given how ASU wrestling is, fantastic and back again. So I'd be curious to see if they've ever actually trying to find someone that's going to do both football and wrestling. And I know the seasons are close together, so I wasn't sure if they'd be able to pull that off.
Well, I don't think ASU has anybody in that realm. Some of the Big Ten schools have kids that do both.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, I guess ASU's last great football wrestler was a dear man and a friend of mine, who I always tell Curly, damn, am I glad that you were born before me, because that guy was just a beast that knows.
Yeah.
I would have never played center because I would have just left the team if you were
you'd have still been an outside linebacker. Frank would have said, "Hey, I need you at center," because he was there.
Exactly. In fact, my last two choices in recruiting was the University of Pittsburgh and out ASU, and that's where I'd have been. I'd have been a Panther.
Wow, exactly. It's like, oh, I got to deal with Curly Culp.
No, that wouldn't have happened. And I'm not a coward, but you know what? A man's got to know his limitations, as Clint Eastwood says.
And that's the thing. You got it.
One of my life, you know. Hey, looking at that beast, I'd have said, "No way, I'm not getting
right.
pounding every day."
Oh man. Well, shout out to everyone in the chat. I mean, I just thank you. So this is amazing, by the way. I'm so happy we got to connect. But Paul Horstein out there, he's based out of New York. He's saying that you said the other school's name, so he drank for you. So Andrew Taylor. Andrew Taylor says cheers. I'm not sure, Andrew, tell me where you're out of as well. And then Wes Franco out of the Atlanta area, he says cheers as well. And Paul Hornstein actually brought up something. He says that wrestling is also the longest season in high school.
I think he's right, especially I'll tell you, I'm just up Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is the mecca for wrestling. High school
I can imagine.
In the country. And I got to say, your home state, California, is coming on big in wrestling. In fact,
they are.
We got the Nevis brothers heavyweights out of California back here.
Yes.
And Bo Nicholson, we grabbed him out of Texas to wrestle at Penn State. And it's just unfortunate those young guys aren't able to do what they do because, honestly, in high school, wrestling was my favorite sport. I loved wrestling. I wrestled. I did everything, and thanks to my dad, because if I didn't participate in the sport, I had to work. So I said, I'll stay after school and do a sport. So, believe it or not, exactly. I was a triple jumper and long jumper in high school too. Good
on you, man. I mean, it's like I didn't play football. I played basketball before I gained all the weight, but I also did track and field. But I was doing discus and shot put. I had the legs to run. But I never did.
Well, you say about football. Actually, in seventh grade, I had a good buddy who was playing at Purdue, Dick Keys, and he was a wide receiver for them. And Dick was him and I. He was a African American. Him and I were like Mutt and Jeff, same size, everything. And after football, he said, "Hey, you're going to go out for basketball, right?" I said, "Well, I never played it, but yeah, I'll go out." I went out with him, and he was a heck of a basketball player. I took the ball, and one of those drills, and you know it, where that they see what you can do.
Right.
They set the cones up, and you had to dribble left hand to right hand up through the cones. And I think I kicked the ball all over the place, and the baseball came up to Jimmy. I think you need to go down the hallway to the other gym to Coach Davis and wrestle.
Right.
So I was never that coordinated for basketball. So
you were coordinated differently.
Yeah.
They sent you to the oven because, if I remember correctly, in my high school gym, it was a basketball gym that you would be in, and then there was this one pair of closed doors, that you'd never go into because it was the oven, because it was just sealed. And then you're just sweating. It's the oven, right? You're just sweating in there.
Well, we called it the cesspool because not only it stunk. It was like everyone, you say, "Hey, clean your pants out" or something. It's nasty in there. But yeah, it was. But you know what? I loved it. It was great to me, and I love football, obviously. But to me, wrestling is the true mano a mano. You walk on the mat. It's you versus that guy. You can't look to your guard and go, if you'd have hit that block, we would have scored and won the damn game. There's no one to look at except yourself,
Right,
and so you come off a hero or you come off a little freaking your tail between your legs and wait for the next time.
Exactly.
That's just me. That's my makeup. That's just how I am.
Now, were you able to watch, and I think it was, last year, right before the Oregon game, right, that same weekend, I think it was Penn State that came to Wells Fargo Arena, and then ASU wrestling, was it Penn State or was it Iowa? And someone in the chat.
No, it was Penn State. They broke their record. They had won 50-some games matches in a row, and they beat them. Then here's the thing. Like many things in my life, it was bittersweet for me because being a Sun Devil, I'm a Sun Devil. But
Right.
I am a huge I'm not a Penn State football fan, but I'm
Okay.
a huge Penn State wrestling fan.
Okay.
So it was sort of tough to watch. So my left arm was doing high fives. My right arm was punching my left arm and punching me in the face, going, knock it off. But yeah,
Right.
that was great for the program, and I'm glad to see they are where they are. And I got to see them. I went to the national championships, and
Oh, outstanding.
it's great. It's really great.
Where were the Nationals were in LA, or where were they? I'm trying to remember
The
where they
Nationals
were.
in Pittsburgh when I went out and saw them.
Was it there? Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
So no,
last year, the year before.
that's always exciting to see them, and it's just so many different programs are beginning to. It feels excel, right? Not
Right.
only is the football team beginning to do well, and then the wrestling has always been fantastic, but there's just like it's beginning to see, a lot of other teams, and even from basketball. Basketball was still
Basketball, yeah, exactly.
very
I love watching.
well.
Yeah,
Absolutely, and even
Bobby
when
Hurley fan anyway.
how can you not, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
basketball was still doing very well. Was that the last time ASU had some really big runs in? It was in the mid '70s, right? About the time you were on campus,
Yeah,
right?
Ned Walk was the coach back then, and
Yes.
We had some good teams. Yeah, we really did. Well, Lionel Hollins, of course, he played when I was out there. Lionel was a great guy, and
Right.
yeah, and oh my God, what was his name? This guy. I heard about this, and everyone used to go in the gym and say, "Do this." They used to take a ladder and they put a quarter up on top of the backboard. Paul Stovall, and
Okay.
Paul could leap. And I kid you not, I didn't believe it until I went to the gym. He could leap and grab that quarter off the top of the backboard. He was just amazing. It was amazing. I mean, I saw it happen. I think it was a trick or something, but
Right, exactly. It's like, oh, he touched the glass, he bumped it or anything else. No, he literally touched the top of the glass.
Oh, his head was above the rim, and he reached up. I don't think he actually grabbed it, but he hit the top of the backboard and it came off. It was just amazing. So yeah,
you witnessed it, so it's not. I mean, people with science fiction, No, you saw it, so
right.
It's
and the Sun Devils have had great track teams. When I was out there, they had a world-class 440 relay team. And a guy actually from Pennsylvania, Maurice Peoples, who was a 400 back then. It was yards, 440-yard sprint champ. He was world class, one of the top 3 in the world. And as a the guy that my daughter, who went to ASU, also, I sent her out there. This guy graduated with her, Ryan Whiting, who set all the shot records at ASU.
Yes.
So, and Ryan's back here now, and just a great guy. But yeah, so I think Mr. Crow is doing a good job. I think he has a vision of it, and
right.
You can't deny sports are a part of that vision. Kids want to come to get excited about that,
Absolutely, and that's the kind of like what everyone said. That's your front door, right? Sports is your front door, so everyone's going to see that, and however they react, whether win or lose, as long as you're getting some exposure, it makes it opens it up to other kids that just want to be there.
Absolutely. Have you ever been to State College, Pennsylvania? Let me tell you,
I have not.
It's a bunch of cow pastures. Penn State football, it's nothing but Holstein cows. Just that the football put that area on the map. I mean, they really did. Paterno was a big part of that, and continues. But yeah, it just goes to show, and you can't deny what big time sports, especially football, which is money generating cow of any university, what it can do and how it can help a university. So you have to embrace it, and you have to give it your backing. I mean, I
absolutely
think to be one of the elites, which ASU is and should continue to be.
And that was interesting you said that, because it's always someone put it out there. I can't remember where I heard it, but it's like almost taking the page from the someone borrowed the term from Ronald Reagan, the trickle down economics, right? That's what football does for you. It's like football is the main generator, and it trickles down to allows you to be able to fund every single sport, beyond that. Now there may be some other tools, like let's say Kansas, right? They're a basketball school, clearly. Dude.
Right.
And so they have, but it's still, again, you put your top sport there, right? And then it generates everything beyond that. So that's actually a brilliant point. Just Paul Hornstein did something. The 75 Fiesta Bowl team was his first exposure to ASU. I think if I remember correctly,
man.
Paul was he's living on Long Island now, but I believe he was in New York at the time. So it was the 75 Fiesta Bowl team was the first exposure to ASU, and he wound up being a graduate.
Oh, wow. Is he there?
He's in the chat right now. So if you want to give him a shout, please do.
Oh, great, Paul. Well, like I said, I'm an idiot with this techno. I'm 67. I don't know this shit, all this techno stuff. I sort of bad of it, and my wife is good with it, but she couldn't get it. But anyway, Paul, thanks a lot, buddy, and I hope we gave you some thrills.
Absolutely.
So
he was out there.
We're going to talk about the team, right?
Exactly. We're absolutely going. See, it goes by so quick though, because that was the whole thing, right? Is starting this. I wanted to meet new people, make new friends, and just have conversation, especially in this time where we're so separated and we really can't. But I'm also very grateful for social media and other connections, because you and I never would have talked. I mean, it's obvious we were on campus at the time, different parts of the country and everything else. So I'm just grateful that we'll be able to do this. And I think Paul, actually, he just had another follow-up. He said it was a night game and he watched it. And for some of you kids, you may not understand this. He watched it on a little black and white TV.
Yeah. How about that? Yeah.
That's right. That was one of my first TVs. It was a black and white. I had a black and white TV in my room for the longest time, and bunny ears and everything. So exactly.
Well, I'll tell you this. You know what? ASU, the Sun Devils are all over this country, and my sister-in-law, her and her husband became friends with this orthopedic surgeon.
Okay.
And they said, oh, he's from out in Scottsdale area and that. I said, oh, I can't wait to meet him. So he came and brought his wife, and she came in and made me feel real good, like I was some kind of damn Michael Haynes superstar or something. She's like, wow, she goes, I can't believe I'm here. And she's a married woman with 3 kids with this doctor guy, and I said, well, hey, I said, what do you mean? She goes, when I was a little girl, and I'm talking 5 years old, 4 years old, my parents were diehard ASU fans. She goes, I saw every game you played, because they started taking me in 1975 to Sun Devil football, because I enough. And I was number one. I was just honored, and number 2, I was a little upset. I'm looking at this beautiful woman going, you were just a baby when I was out there.
Yeah, it's like I was a whole 15 years old.
Yeah. it was great. Yeah.
But I mean, playing in the stadium then, right? Obviously, it's completely different from now. But if I remember correctly, the whole southern portion was just bleachers, or at some point, or was it open when you were playing? Okay.
It was bleachers. We had, in fact, back then, I think the seating capacity was 52,000.
Okay.
By the way, we never played in all my years out there. We never played to anything but a sellout crowd. That was amazing.
Oh,
I thank all the Sun Devil fans that might be watching. Thank your parents, because I know they're freaking probably my age and shit. But it was amazing. But I think it was just neater in a way, because I've been at many games since. We had bleachers on each side of the end zones, and of course, the buttes were exposed. And going out there as a player / student, you'd look up on the buttes and you'd see another 10,000 kids, and you knew, that's where I want to be. They got the boys drinking beer, watching us sweat and die down here. But
that's so cool.
Really, really neat. And what we used to do, I don't know if you know this, over at Wells Fargo, that became our locker room.
Really?
We dressed down underneath Wells Fargo. That was our locker room, and that was the football room facility down there. They didn't have
Yeah, that's
So,
true because it used to be
right.
the Student Carson Center in the south, and then now they're moving into they've moved to the north. So yeah, okay, interesting.
But it was a neat concept and it was a great feeling as a young player. And I think a lot of guys, we had our superstars for sure, but even the guys that just played and were part of that team, it, they did a thing that really made you feel extra special, and that is we always put on our gear down in underneath Wells Fargo. We put our pants on, our shoes on, our jersey on. We carry our helmet and our shoulder pads, and we came up the ramp there, and people used to line from the ramp coming up over to the stadium to our
Right.
locker room, and they'd line it up, and we walked through this gamut of fans that was just such a rush. I mean, you can't
So
imagine what that did to you as the athlete going into the battle. Like, yeah, they're here to see me. Yeah, that's why
you're
they're
ready to
going
get
to kick ass. By the time you got
exactly.
to the locker room, you were ready to rock and roll on this thing.
That's
It was
excellent.
pretty neat. Yeah, it was
And
cool.
that's always interesting too, because I remember before they built the northern end zone facility, during the South, they always do the devil walk, right? The buses would arrive and they would walk to, I guess if I'm trying to remember, they would be walking to the south of Wells Fargo. And Paul
Right.
Hornstein just corrected me. It was called the Activity Center back then.
Activities. He's right on.
Yes, sir. So we're going through. So you would walk right south of the Activity Center right into the stadium. And that would be the devil walk. So you'd have a lot of the students and fans lining up that
Right.
way. So I don't know how they, and again, whoever's in the chat, if someone can clarify how they're doing that now, especially since they have to go through the north side, it's a little bit different. But I just,
Yeah.
even watching the telecast, I mean, just seeing the players walk through that, you just see the fans cheering and just the pulse and the energy and the band and everything else. It's just, how can you not get hype for that? And even I
Oh,
don't know if you. And then the other was the Tillman Tunnel on the south side, the old Tillman Tunnel.
yes. I was
And
in
then they
that
would.
many times.
Oh, I mean, it's just I know there was a little spot where you could kind of like look down on the players, right, when they're just.
Mm-hmm.
But even the former players, you guys would be against the wall, just hyping them up. I mean, it's just so much
Right.
energy.
It was. It was truly the first time I went out and did that. It was amazing, and in fact, Chris Lorenzen was with me, and I think Bobby Brady was standing beside me too. And we said, "How damn cool is this?" Because the players start down at the bottom, and man, we did. We got them just going.
Oh, that's
It's
so cool.
it was amazing. Yeah,
That is
I love those
outstanding.
guys.
I
Right.
bet going back and everything else. So it is the top of the hour. And as always, everyone, we're going to go ahead and take a short 15-minute bio break, rest, refuel, get your drink and everything else. But, we'll take about 15 minutes, come back at 8:15, and then we'll talk about your recruitment because I actually absolutely want to hear, you had two schools, Pitt and ASU. Why'd you pick ASU, but also what was your first summer like in Tempe as well? I definitely
It was. Well, I can't tell you everything, but I'll tell you the stuff I
No,
can.
you don't have to share everything. When we are together and you're in Tempe and I come down to Tempe, then we will be able to do a heck of a lot more. So, all
All
right. So
right.
let me go ahead and transition this off, and you should be off the stream, and then I'll add you in about 15 minutes, my friend.
Okay, buddy. Thank
Talking of
you.
it. Yes. All right, everyone. Thank you again so much for staying on the stream. As always, make sure you go ahead and get yourself a new drink, get a bio break and everything else. We're going to have even more excellent conversations. So be right back. I understand, Paul. I want to hear this stuff too. But again, I think that's going to have to be over drinks and good friendship in Tempe. And I can't wait for you to be a part of that as soon as possible. But everyone, make sure you go ahead and do what you need to. And then I'm going to go ahead and just suspend the stream. And then we will see you in another 15 minutes. Talk Welcome back, everyone. Happy Friday. Hopefully, you are doing well. Your bladder has room. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to top off my wine for you guys. One thing I'm drinking. You know what? I want to bring Jim back on. Jim, I know you're eating, which is okay. You can eat all you want if you'd like, especially even on. It's a social club. We're here to eat and drink.
You saw me eating those corn chips.
That's all right, man. That's quite all right. I just wanted to share what I was drinking. This is one of my favorite vineyards, Sterling Vineyards. It's right up the road from my house. I absolutely love it. But this is what's called the West Coast. So it's a mash from, I think, 3 of their different wineries. So that's what I'm drinking myself. I haven't even eaten dinner. So that's why I was doing it there. I was talking with the family. What are we eating? And they're like, especially the teenagers, they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, I guess it never changes, I guess. So I don't know if you're watching the Pac-12 championship played on Friday night. Right now, it's live in LA. USC is losing to Oregon 14-7.
Wow.
From what I saw, Oregon had two interceptions, and they returned them both. They were actually be able to turn them into touchdowns. So that one is going as well. We've got a good crowd here on the channels. They almost blocked that pump. That's crazy. So you graduated in what year, my man?
76.
76 from ASU.
High school was 71.
71. Yep. And so what was your recruitment like, right? What was like you were playing in high school, people took notice of you. What schools took notice of you first?
Well, I had the Naval Academy, of which I knew I couldn't go there. I wasn't that much of a disciplinary type kid. Though it probably would have been a good move, although I made the right move.
Yes.
University of Miami, which wasn't what it is now. That was really an upstart school.
Okay.
There were a lot of different. Northwestern was interested. Colorado State, who ended up being one of our opponents. But the three big schools that I sort of buckled on were Michigan State, Pittsburgh, and ASU.
And you were being recruited as a linebacker.
As a linebacker, correct. And yeah, I went to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was a great fit because it was close to home. A lot of friends my friends could drop out at any time. And in the end of the day, that probably worked against Pittsburgh for me because knowing how I was, the last thing I wanted was my goofy ass friends from back here out there, taking that. I knew where that would go. So, although I really liked the school, I liked everything about it. Michigan State was big, and it's crazy. I think knowing that Frank graduated was a big alumni of Michigan State, which I didn't know at the time because I got in correspondence from ASU, but never really spoke to them up front and personal up to the time. Well, I take that back. I did in the several weeks before I took a recruit trip out to Michigan State, which was actually 2 or 3 weeks before I came to visit ASU. And I'll tell you, it was a game changer because, as you know, back here, and you and I talked the other day and today, at this time of the year, it is cold. And I don't mean cold like San Francisco cold or anywhere else cold. This is bone-chilling cold because humidity doesn't leave us, and it goes in the opposite direction. And you literally, when you go outside like today, I think it got up to 32, but right now it's hovering around 20 degrees.
Wow.
But if you go outside, you instantly are chilled because of the damp humidity, and it goes right through your bones. And so anyway, I took a trip. I was excited for Michigan State. I had watched them on television, and I liked everything about them. I just thought that might be the fit. I went out there, and when the plane landed, I had on my heavy winter coat because it was cold here. Landed there, heavy winter coat. It was there was probably 20 inches of snow on the ground, and I'm trying to walk around campus looking and freezing my ass off. And came home and thought, well, you know what? It's a neat place. I like it out there, and I'm a big fisherman, so we're right there on the lake. And you know,
right on. Okay.
I can kill the walleye and everything out there. I go nuts. And 2 weeks later, I made my official visit to ASU.
Now, what month is this? This is like late January, early February?
It was in February. I think,
Got it.
And because the times were different than they are now as far as commitment wise. And I got on a plane in Harrisburg, heavy winter coat, everything on my flannel shirt, my jeans, everything. I'm cold. We had a change of plane in Chicago. And,
oh, dear.
Well, and Chicago was as bad as here, if not worse. So heavy coat, everything. Got on the plane, stowed my coat away because the plane was warm. And as we're rolling into Phoenix, the pilot got on and said, well, folks, he goes, keep your coats tucked under your arm because it's a beautiful, sunny 84 degrees in downtown Phoenix. I got off the plane. Coach Jerry Thompson met me at the airport. I got off the plane. Of course, then you went on a tarmac, and I had this heat just hit me. I thought, you've got to be kidding me. Drove around, and you know, they say, and I still hear it, you either love the desert or you don't.
Yeah.
Well, I loved it. It was a love affair. I loved the whole thing. And back then, a lot of your viewers, I'm sure, were too young, but back then there was Phoenix, and then you went to desert.
Yeah.
And then you got to Tempe. And then there were desert out to Scottsdale. There were separated by desert.
Exactly.
Not like today. But I'm going along and I see this sign that says Salt River. But it was nothing but a dry gulch.
Right. There's nothing there.
Yeah. And I said to Coach Thompson, why do they call it a river? He goes, well, when it rains up north or when the snow melts, this becomes a river. It's flooded. It just, for a kid back east, for me, I got rivers here that flood. I mean,
exactly.
And I was like, what the hell am I getting into? And actually, I just loved it from the moment I got off the plane. So I went. Bob Brunig was the first person I met other than Coach Thompson in out at ASU. Bobby and I were recruited the same week. And Bob Brunig.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, and
wanted to make sure.
Yes, and Bob, the team, they put Bob and I together at Saguaro Hall and up with Steve Matlock and Tim Holman on the team. But then I'll tell you this, you'll like this because you like these crazy ass stories.
Please.
We went over and Coach Thompson dropped me off. He goes, I want you to go in. This is the room you go to. Go up. There's a guy up there, Bob Brunig. He's a All-American linebacker, and you know he's a hell of a state champ. And I'm, what? Why are you putting me with this guy? I'm going up with Mr. Hero here.
Right.
So Bob and I met, and then he told us. And John, I don't know if you're familiar with. I don't even think it's. I know it's not there anymore. Goodwin Stadium. Did you ever have the opportunity of seeing it? Well, Goodwin Stadium sat over off of a patch there, and right up from Hayden Hall. And
okay.
It was their football stadium before they built Sun Devil Stadium.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's where they had their practices. And so Coach Thompson said, you guys get yourself together and come over to practice. So I go over, and the amazing thing on this, and it's a bunch of crap, and tell me I'm talking too much, but I go into the stadium, and there's other recruits. Bob and I are sitting, and I look down, and I said, "Damn, Bob, look at that." And they were wooden bleachers. I said, those bleachers look like they're all burned up in something. What do you think happened there? He goes, I have no idea. So we watched Coach Cush's. I had read about him. They had just done an article in Sports Illustrated on Coach Cush as the meanest, toughest coach in college football. And I read it. And of course, the guys I played with back here go, "Are you out of your mind? You want to go out and even do this?" And I said to Bob, and Bob was a Phoenix high school. He was born and raised in Phoenix. I said, Bob, do you think he'll let up all this shit I've read about him being so tough? You think he'll relax because of all these recruits? And Bob looked at me with those Bob Bruni guys. He said, there's not a chance of that. And we watched him put these guys through one of the most crazy, hard-nosed practices, including a hamburger drill I never heard of. I watched it happen there.
Okay.
And I was like, damn. I said, well, this guy, he does it. And Bob looked at me and Bob said, he will bring out every bit of the player you are and can be. I'm telling you that right now.
That's so cool.
That was pretty, and that's a high school kid telling me that, but Bob had whittled it down to go on to USC or to the ASU, and
right.
I asked him about it, and he said no. He goes, "Hey, I just went to USC for the trip and the free food." Because I'm coming here, Let me tell you about the dark spot.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Okay. Go ahead, please.
So we got with our chaperones, if you will, the players, and we said, "Hey, there's a big like the bleacher burned or something up there.
Right.
What was that all about?" And they go, "Oh yeah, some guy was protesting something and actually came to our practice last week, threw a can of gas, torched all over himself, and lit himself on fire."
In the stadium. Holy shit! I've never heard of that.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's a truth. I said, "You've got to be kidding me." And so I'm thinking this place is insane out here. What's going on? But let me tell you, aside from the fact that Steve Matlock was one, and I don't know if you know Steve, he's a great guy.
I do not. Would love.
Well, you would love him. And
I would love
you need to meet Steve, and if we ever see each other in Tempe, which I hope to do at spring game or something, I'll introduce you to him. He's a great guy, very successful individual, but crazy at the time, like all of us were. And Steve said, "That's the way things are in the desert, Jim." I said, "Oh, okay." So
that's how it goes, exactly.
Yeah,
Paul
I had an outstanding trip, and when I got home, my dad said, "What do you think?" I said, "I told him I'm signing. I'm going there."
That was it.
That's it. That's where I'm heading.
Lighting away. They all made it right. Anything else? And Paul Hornstein again. He's an encyclopedic. I love his encyclopedic knowledge because again, I believe he helped found a lot of the sports broadcasting there at the Cronkite School, right when he was there back in the 80s. So he's been instrumental in that during his time. But he mentioned, as you were talking about Michigan State, hopefully I'm referring to this at the right time. He says, was that at the height of the Duffy Daugherty era?
It was right at the end, because Duffy came in. Frank played for a coach, Biggie Munn, and then Duffy was a line coach, and then he took over. But yes, that was at that time. It was Bo Beckler, Woody Hayes, Frank Cush, and Duffy was out there, right with all that.
That's an incredible Michigan State team of all this, of the names that are in there, right? And it's just like it's almost as if you're looking at an Alabama team or one of those other ones where they were just starting together, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, look at what they did.
Right. It's amazing. Isn't it amazing, though, Jedi, and my buddy and I were just talking about this. Boy, that perpetual wheel just turns to where there's teams that you didn't hear about, you heard about. They were so-so, and all of a sudden they become dominant, and they get into that realm, and then they get everything coming their way until another team, Clemson, back in the day, who cared? Clemson, and all of a sudden they got Dabo Sweeney, and all things start changing and moving around.
Dabo and the quarterback Trevor Lawrence, just the combo of the two of them getting him into.
I can't wait for tomorrow to see that game with Notre Dame again with Trevor Lawrence playing. I think it's going to be a different game.
Be good. May they play tomorrow and all their tests come out.
Absolutely, I hope you're right, man. I'm looking
exactly.
Forward to that.
I know because I don't know. Obviously, it's like college football is one of my passions, along with my family and everything else. But I kind of feel guilty kind of watching college football, given it is a global pandemic and everything else. But I'm also very appreciative of the escape of what it offers, right? Because then I can just I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just enjoying the sport and what it's doing. And, even if it's not even ASU playing, if it's even another team, whether it's Coastal Carolina or something else, I can enjoy the sport and just have some escapism there. So that's my whole thing. I don't know. Do you watch a lot of college football or just ASU?
Do.
Or okay,
with kids and everything, and now grandkids and that, I am a devout follower of my high school. I do a lot. I do a lot for them. I've done a lot for them since I've been out. And my son, my whole family went. My wife went to Central Dauphin High School, where I went. My son, both my sons went there, played football. My daughter went there, played volleyball. Our grandson's going to go there.
Wow.
We live and breathe high school football, and I would encourage anybody that's listening to this, do yourself a favor. And I love college football. The true football is played on Friday nights in high school.
Is it?
It truly, to me, it is, because it's not tarnished by money, by aspirations of the next thing. It's where you see football and kids laying it out every play just because they love it and they want to win that game. I would never give up Friday night football, and I don't miss. I travel with my high school team. I go
really?
Wherever they
That's
go
cool.
in the state and watch them. And my son now, my youngest son, is actually a defensive line coach for them. It's awesome to me for that. And I do watch some college football, but you know what? I got a lot of things to do around my house, and that the one thing I don't watch much of is football. I just don't watch it because of the fact of no other reason than of the three. I don't know, my own opinion, right or wrong. I might piss a lot of people off, but I think pro football is evolving into like pro wrestling. It's sports entertainment.
Yes.
I just
Agreed.
don't see the degree of commitment that you see, number one, with high school, which, like I told you, to me is on the top of the list, and college. You just don't see. Yeah, they're fine-tuned athletes. I give them all that, but you know what? No kid ever came out of a high school game because he had turf toe. He's playing through it. He's going to do it. And that's what I love about it. So that's just me and my take.
And that's actually very interesting, because there's another gentleman, a good friend of mine, his name is Ralph Amsden, and he covers Arizona high school football. He actually has a whole company built around it. He talks a lot about recruiting for high school football, but he's at his passion. He loves high school football. He's really interested in. He always, from a recruiting perspective, very interested in the kids' success at the next level. Right, he wants them to see them do well and go on and make a good name for themselves at the next level. Right, but again, it's interesting that you're saying like they're there to have a good time, and so my whole thing is, and again, the town I live in is highly competitive. And so there's a lot of those helicopter parents, and you hear them, so it's always, for me, it takes away. I can't enjoy. Unfortunately, I wear my emotions on my sleeve, so it kind of takes away the enjoyment of the game for me. So I think that's why I would like, we watch some of the California, Las Vegas high schools on TV, because again, at least this way I can enjoy the game rather than, all everything else that's going out there. And Paul actually had something interesting to see. Let me see if I can do this here. You should. Let me know if you can see that comment down there. It says, I was lucky enough to see a game at Odessa Perriman, post HG.
Down in Texas. Yep.
Yeah. So it was interesting. Yeah, so it's actually good to be able to do this. I mean, it's like, I'm actually learning this platform. This was actually the Duffy Daugherty era comment he was sharing earlier. So it's actually good to be able to kind of figure that one out. So you were recruited, right? So you recruited, you decided on ASU, right? You were there at a spectacular time of year during the late winter, spring, right? And obviously, so you came back, so you graduated from high school, right? And so when did you leave for ASU, and what was your first day? Like, was it in August or was it July?
It was August. Yeah, it was August back then. The freshmen didn't come in until the players were back from camp. However, there were a few
camp meeting.
Camp Tonazona, Camp.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, the freshmen, because school didn't start until it was the last week of first Friday no, it was before September. Okay. Last week in August. However, they would go up to camp before that. However, there was a handful of us freshmen that were invited to come out early and go to Camp T. So I was lucky and fortunate enough. I was one of the freshmen invited to come out and go up and spend the time up at Camp T in my freshman year.
Okay.
And it was an experience, and it's not like it is today. It's beautiful up there now. I mean, now they even have an artificial turf up there, which
I don't think we've used yet.
No, we haven't. You're exactly right, and it blows our mind. I was just out. This past year was a wash. We didn't go, but last year in 1919, we went out and went down to Camp T. We called and arranged to just have one of the people that's there taking care of it show us around.
Oh, okay.
And it was just a beautiful thing. But at the same time, Jedi, I gotta say, and maybe it's because we're old fuddy-duddies, but all of us players that played up there when there was nothing but dirt and rocks in the field. In fact, that was part of our thing that Frank never had to tell us to do. We were getting sick of falling and getting boulders up our arms and in our knees.
Oh, man.
So we would eat a lunch and then say, let's go down to the field, throw some rocks, go out in the field looking for rocks and throw them away.
Clearing it out.
And I swear to God, that little general had guys to put them back because we never got all the rocks off. Yeah.
So it's like, go find what is it?
Yeah. It's like,
what the
hell? I thought we cleared these rocks out and they're back. Yeah.
And then you go back out and then it's like they're magically back again. It's like, what the hell?
Camp Tonazona was a magical time. It was brutal. It was unbelievably brutal. I mean,
how many days again for you guys?
Pardon me?
How many days would you guys go?
A week. We would go up Monday. We'd be there Monday, and then Saturday we'd scrimmage and then come back.
Right.
Yeah, we used to scrimmage at a high school up there. I can't recall the name of it.
Okay.
But we used to go, and that's where they'd have our scrimmage up there. But it was great. It was a great bonding time because the coaches, we only saw the coaches during practice.
Oh, interesting.
After that, they had their coach's cabin and they stayed there. And looking back, and we've talked about this, they let us work through our ins and outs. And someone might have pissed you off in the morning and you had an issue with it.
Right.
Well, believe me, when there were fisticuffs went on there. There was a lot of stuff happening there, and leaders came out of it, understandings came out of it, and when we left that camp, guys that you would see assaulting each other out on the field, and not just because they won a position, because they were genuinely pissed off about something, and that guy. We came back down to Tempe like a family. It's weird. Right. It just was a weird thing, and they had the perception in their heads because we've talked to the coaches since about it, and they said, "Hey, it was a good place to just let you guys sit out," as they called it. And we
exactly.
Did. And
exactly. Now, and did they still have cabins at that time, or they had cabins, right? Or pseudo cabins, literally.
If you've been up there, have you ever been up?
I've been up a couple times, but more recently. I wasn't back in the day.
Well, listen, it's nothing like it was because first time we went up there after a long hiatus of being away from it, we're walking around going, air-conditioned cabins? Are you out of your mind? We had, if you wanted air, you had to lift. They had these doors that you lifted up and propped with 2x4s, and the only was you had to cover your whole body except your nose to breathe air because the bugs would come in and
the bugs
would
get you.
Yeah. So, I mean,
You could win, and it was monsoon season, so yeah, the rain was nice, but then there was the humidity, which we're not used to in Arizona, and
yeah.
then it just brought out the bugs even more.
Well, it was crazy. It was a good time. I mean, but boy, that camaraderie ship just came together up there. I mean, we always talk about it that, we go to camp and on the bus ride up, we'd look at each other and go, what the hell's this guy about? What's he going to be? But you know what? You come to understandings. And to me, that's what men are about. I brought my kids up that way. I mean, you know what? Life isn't always rosy. In fact, Franklin, my freshman year when we went up, I'll never forget Bob Bruni and I again, and Johnny Hauser, who's no longer with us. Him and I played against each other in high school and ended up at ASU. Frank at one of the lunch gatherings and looked right at the freshman. He goes, I'm going to tell you something. Life's a bitch. Football's a bitch. And I'm the worst son of a bitch you're ever going to come across in your life. We all looked at each other like, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Exactly. We signed up for this?
Yeah. We had choices. We could have gone somewhere else.
We chose this. And we're happy to be here.
Absolutely.
Every year for 4 years in a row.
Absolutely. And you know what? At the end of the day, we were thrilled. I can't imagine being anywhere else, really.
It was I had a wonderful experience at ASU as well. And I'll actually send you an article about my experience. I won't go into it right now, but I mean, when you got onto campus, I mean, obviously now it's a small metropolis, that campus.
Sure.
Right? I mean, it's just, I've always been a fan of building up. So I'm happy to see Tempe not go out, but up. It's always wonderful to see, but it's just so different, right? Every time I go back. And I mean, I graduated in 98. So much of the stuff north of University, like all the engineering schools and everything else, even the towers, all of that wasn't there, right? So even then, when you were there, when you went in, I mean, it's just like it was still space between, the cities, right? So I mean, would you primarily stay in Tempe when you're living there? I mean, as a freshman, obviously, I don't think you had a car, but as you got, older as a junior and a senior, would you guys drive to the other towns? Or, I mean, what was it like off season for you guys?
I don't think I can talk about that.
You know what? Paul Hornstein was asking so you don't have to go absolutely. Cause I mean, fortunately, ASU has a reputation. We all know ASU has always had that reputation, and President Crow is changing it. Yes, and definitely President Crow is fixated on changing that. But there's no denying that it was good. So I mean, what were some of the bars that you guys would go to? Not necessarily, some of the crazy stories, but what would you guys have there?
I can tell you the only bar that was still in existence in these past years, but now it's gone, was the Minor Binder. That was
yes, of course.
Yeah, Minor Binder. And one of the cool things with that was when my daughter was contemplating going out there and we had gone out before, but I never really went to the Minor Binders. I never went back to it.
Right.
And I took her and my oldest son. We went over to Minor Binders, and and Minor Binders was going strong there still, wasn't it?
It was. They're out in McClintock, right?
At McClintock.
Yeah, well, exactly.
And the thing that when that thing opened up, it was just a wild free for all for anyone that could get through the doors. I mean, it was just amazing.
Fake IDs were a rave back then too.
No, yeah. Well, hey, I'll tell you a little story here. They had a doorman and a guy that wasn't a football player, but everyone knew him and loved him. He was from Baldwin, Pennsylvania. He was a shot putter and the national champion shot putter, and just
right on.
Just a crazy guy.
Okay.
And Ron, I'll tell you his name, Ron Simp. He wouldn't care. He'd say, I don't give a shit. But Ron's like this powerhouse, and just he had a beard. He was like Hercules. And
okay.
We walked in with him, and I said, well, you know what? Sometimes these guys at the doors, they get a little. We were old enough. I said, but I think the drinking age was 18 at the time.
Oh wow! Okay.
Believe it or not, but Ron was 17. And
Oh,
and we're all going in, and I said, these guys sometimes, man, they get crappy about IDs. He goes, I'm fine. He always had this big smile. He had a big gap in his teeth. We walked through the doors, and the guy, he knew us. We're going through, and Ron came up. He goes, I need an ID. And Ron goes, well, I don't really have one, but it's all right. I'm old enough. And the guy said, no, I need an ID. And Ron, quietly, like he did, he got up close to the guy. He goes, is it really worth getting your ass beat? and the guy looked at him and said, God, go ahead, Ed. It was,
as a former doorman, that was one of my jobs while I was at ASU. I was a doorman right at the front checking IDs. And I would have said the same thing. I'm like,
yeah. No, yeah, go ahead. What are
that's
they
not
paying
worth
me?
it.
I don't care.
Yeah, I'm earning nothing. I'm not really.
and one of the greatest things that we loved about Minor Binder was they had all these wild nights of they give you a beer for a reduced price pitcher.
Right.
And we always loved when they did brawl nights because then the girls went crazy and we just stood around like crazy jocks going, yeah.
Oh my God. So they would just be taking off the bras. Is that
right there? Yeah, they take one because it's with a brawl, all pitchers were $1, so they were just.
It's like oh my goodness. God bless. God bless Minder Binder.
Yeah, there was a lot of things. I mean, we had a lot of fun. Jerry's Liquor's still there, brother.
Yes, it is. I've been the last time I was there. I actually was on a way to a friend's tailgate, pick something up, and walk to the tailgate. God bless Jerry's.
I couldn't believe. I mean, you talk about my recruit trip. I came back and my buddies back here like, well, so what's it like? You know what? Tell me about it. I said, you won't believe this shit. You can actually stay in your car, drive up, say, give me a case of Coors. They bring it over, hand it to you, you give them money. It's like a bank. You drive away.
It's unreal. I heard that you guys can't, like, you still guys have to, but in Pennsylvania, I did this in Philly. You can't buy. You have to buy it in particular spots. You can't.
Yes. Well, they've changed it a little bit, Jedi. For the longest time, it was if you want a case of beer, you have to go to a beer distributor. You can go to a bar and buy 2 6-packs at a time, but that's all, 2 6-packs.
Interesting.
You can buy no liquor or wine anywhere but a state store, which is run by the state. And so now they're sort of realizing that, hey, they took their powdered wigs off and said, let's get in with the modern ages. So now in grocery stores, you can buy limited amounts, I think a 12-pack of beer. And 1 or 2 bottles of wine, no hard liquor. That's all controlled by the state. So
when I landed, I was meeting with a customer in Philadelphia, and so the guy was driving me from the airport. We're going along, and I'm talking about exactly like the way it is in Arizona. How it's like I had just been into Tempe. I was just visiting, and I went into the Safeway there on Broadway and Rural. There's a Safeway there, and I walked in, and they had taps where you could fill the growlers. So you could take the growler and fill it like this, and the guy's driving me in the van, and he's like, and I use this line all the time. He's like, "That's science fiction. It doesn't."
That doesn't exist.
Exactly, it's like you're talking everything.
Oh yeah. Well, there was a lot of neat bars around, like I'm sure you were. The thing, and it's amazing. And I gotta say, when I went to ASU and I'm walking around, that one thing I noticed was it was very hard to spot an ugly girl.
God bless ASU. That's still the case.
All the girls were beautiful, and I'm telling you. I took a buddy of mine out in 98.
Okay.
Took him out, and I was getting Marky tattoo on my arm.
Oh, right
on.
on.
I said, hey, Kev, do you want to go with me over to the tattoo parlor? He goes, no, I'll just sit here. He sat at the fountain. They still had the fountain. It wasn't
exactly.
Shit. So he was sitting at the fountain. I said, well, I'll be back when I'm done. They said it'd be about an hour and a half. I came back. I said, "What do you think?" He goes, and this is I never told this story about my feelings about the girls.
Of course.
I said, "What do you think, Foxy?" His name's Kevin Fox. I said, "What do you think, Foxy?" He goes, "Well, I can tell you one thing. I've been here for almost 2 hours, and I have not seen one ugly girl walk by." He goes, "They're beautiful here."
God bless us. I mean, yeah. I mean, it may have been a summer a party school, but now that it's just like you cannot go wrong. I mean, like you said, it was beautiful recruitment.
Yes,
beautiful weather, and I mean, and I think that's a testament. Again, Paul Hornstein will kind of echo this, right? You know, the hockey team doing brilliant and just doing amazing, and so
I
continuing.
I love watching their hockey,
and they won today, if I remember correctly. So
I don't get them back here. But I love.
We'll have to figure out. You know what it is. We'll connect. Paul, definitely shoot me an email so I can connect you with Jim, because Paul has a podcast where he covers ASU hockey. Again, he's out in the New York area, but again, we'll try to figure out a way to get you to be able to watch those games. But to your point about how beautiful Tempe is, I mean, it's just. That's probably one of the most number one things everyone talks about is like, okay, if you're going on a recruiting spin in the winter, you go and you've just described it, right? You either go in and you have all your layers, or you're coming out and it's like, okay, and they show up in flip flops. It's like, all right, let's go to the pool. Let's do this. Let's do that. So exactly. So now how big is your Sparky, by the way? It's on your left arm?
It's up here. Well, I started off with just a Sparky coming out of flames, and then I put after that, and I take it off, but you don't see me without.
Oh, it's cold. I don't expect you to do that.
But
when we're in Tempe drinking, you will do it.
Yeah. Then I had on top of that, a couple years later, I had Arizona State Sun Devils, and then 1975 12-0 put under it. So.
Oh, that's brilliant.
What
did you think about the
covers all up here?
It's all. And so, what did you think about the rebrand when that came out in 2011 with
the fork?
Yeah.
I like the fork. You know, Sparky. I think they've incorporated it. They haven't let him go. They let it.
They still did.
At least the drawing Sparky. I got to tell you, when I was there, that freaking Sparky was a sad sight. Really, if you check your annals and back to 1975, Sparky didn't look too healthy. He was just a big old fat guy. I love the Sparky now that they have, you know.
They do, and it's great. He's got a great outfit. The mask is brilliant. Yes. I mean, some of the old Sparkies were like,
oh, yeah. Nope.
But some of the new ones.
Yeah, our guy wasn't the best. So
now here's something for you from the chat. I'll let you read this one. This is about ASU and their beautiful girls.
I went to Homegirl. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
sorry, buddy.
Yeah, so he came to ASU just absolutely not fully expecting any of that. So yeah, well, so it's
he said.
I mean, even going back,
I got to say to that, I forgot. I didn't see his name, but I bet first words.
Well, that's Paul Hornstein again. That's Paul Hornstein again.
Okay, Paul. I bet your first words were "There's heaven," and I rhymed.
That's right. That's right. Oh my God. So to talk about the 75 season, right? We're coming up on our second hour, which is always fun.
Okay.
But we were talking about the 75 season. And it's like, again, we were talking with Jeff Van Raphorst. He actually said, you know, it's just like you. I'm sure you've had this question asked of you, and you don't have to answer it yet, but I'll kind of set it up. Everyone asks, what's it like being part of the only undefeated team? Or like Jeff Van Raphorst, you know, what's a part of being like the only ASU team to win a Rose Bowl, right? Jeff Van Raphorst is like, I don't like it because I expect that from my team every year, you know. Yeah. So is that kind of it's like, you know, is that the standard that you expect for this program, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, back in that time, and you're talking that golden years, I would call them, and I've heard it referred to as that.
Yes, sir.
In the early 70s to mid 70s, I truly think that was the golden years of ASU football. Taken away from the 96 team, certain teams after that happened to have successful seasons. You're looking at 1970 to 75 in 5 years.
Right.
It was an unbelievable run, and there was some unbelievable talent going on there, and the chemistry. And like I said before, a lot of us get together. We call ourselves brotherhood, and you heard Ron Roquet talk about that.
Right.
You know, there was something going on that we didn't understand then, but as adults, we try to figure out and say, yeah, you know what? There was some type of common denominator, but I'm not going to talk about those other teams. I'll talk about my team,
Please.
if you want me to, in 75.
No, absolutely.
You know, we came off of 1973. They were 11-1. They beat Pittsburgh in the Fiesta Bowl. 1974. Well, they lost. We lost Danny White, Benny Owen, Woody Green. We lost some big players off that 73 team.
Right.
But we still had a lot of good players coming back in 74. And that, I don't know, that just was a weird year in that era of football at ASU. Like I said earlier, Frank became a little, not complacent, but was more understanding. He wasn't his usual aggravated self at every little thing you do, fine tuning everything, you know.
What did you think it was? Why do you think that happened that one season for him?
You know what? I honestly, Jedi, I don't know. I don't know what happened. We never talked about that. But like I said earlier, you know, when that season was over and before we started spring ball for the 75 team, and Frank told me and I, you tell those guys that the son of a bitch is back. We're going to get to it. We did. Well, then the amazing thing, and I'll talk to you, and you shut me off.
No, please share away. Go.
Yeah, that's the only way to stop my mouth is you jump in.
Man.
But in 75, when we came back, and prior to going to Tonazona, Coach Cush brought an outfit in out of California, and if my memory serves me right, I think it was called the Pacific Institute of Self-Image. Okay. It was a outfit that did what a lot of places are doing now, of the power of positive thinking and goal setting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it was really wild. It wasn't like him, but he did this. And we sat for a couple days and listened to these lectors telling us, for example, you know, they said, you know, most of all, in our society, we view the world in black and white. It's black and white. Look at newspapers. It's black print on white paper. They handed out little cards like we were being at a psychiatrist's office, little cards and saying, what do you see in there? What do you see on this card? And, you know, all of us focused on black on white. And then when they straightened us out and said, now, look at the white on black. Try that.
Oh, interesting.
And we did, and bam, their images then appeared. And the whole gist of that and the thing behind it was, if you can't tell your mind, you know, your mind gets programmed.
Mm-hmm.
And it can get programmed in different ways. If your mind doesn't have a roadmap, it's all over the place. You need a map.
Right.
You need a roadmap of where you want to go. And that's been proven, I'm sure, with you and your life and a lot of people that and I think success comes from it. You have to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you're scattered. You don't know where to go. Right. So anyways, we took that and applied it to that team. And, you know, going into that season, and I don't know if you're aware of the people listening, going into that year at Camp Tonazona and into the first few games, in fact, half the season, on offense, it was me and 6 sophomores. Split it. Wide receiver to tight end. It was 6 sophomores.
Wow.
Oh, absolutely. And I was the senior. In the backfield was Dennis Sproul, a sophomore. Right. Freddie Williams. I mean, it was an offense of sophomores. I was the lone senior on that team. On defense, I think we had 5 seniors. But it was just a queer, weird thing that we thought, what are we going to do here? But
Okay.
that training, that mental training that we got, I'm telling you, was instrumental in where we went and what we achieved, because we didn't set out to be 12-0. We set out to beat Washington. That's what we set out to be. We set out going to camp to have a great camp and to individually do our best.
Mm-hmm.
That's what our goal was. It wasn't long term. It was short term, because this guy taught us and instilled in us, take care of what's right in front of you, and the rest will follow.
Wow.
So we did that, and it was amazing. We went to camp. Some things happened at camp. I mean, we went up there, like I say, off of that season. I'm the lone senior at center. I got 2 sophomore guards, 2 sophomore tackles, sophomore tight end, sophomore wide receiver, sophomore quarterback, and a junior running back and a sophomore running back. Now, you tell me, what do you think what's going to happen?
Oh, absolutely. You're dragging them along and teaching all these little, for lack of a better word, babies, right? Because they're just new to the system, right? So it's like, okay, I got to build these guys up.
Absolutely. And the thing was, and this wasn't me. This is what we were taught by this outfit. But Mike and I, during the course of the year, when we would have meetings, we'd always have team meetings.
It's Mike Haynes, right?
Mike Haynes. We said about then, after team meetings, the coaches would leave and we'd go, okay, now we would have our player meeting. And we would sit, and this is not, it's crazy, but we would sit and think, okay, we've seen the game film. We look at Michael, who was our kick return specialist. I mean, he was amazing. We'd say, Mike, do you think you can bring a kick, either return or punt, back for us on this? And he would say yes or no. And we chalk it up, 6 points. Okay. We knew Danny could kick the ball. And when Danny didn't kick, Fred Mortensen actually was a kicker. Freddie helped us a lot with that.
Okay.
So, okay, there's 7 points. We would go down the line offensively and then defensively. Look at our guys and say, what do you seriously think? How much can they score on us? Well, they're not going to score on the run. And then we would break it all down. And I'm telling you, Jedi, if you talk to the other players, it was sort of uncanny as to where we were after a game, as to where we thought we would be prior to the game because of watching film.
That's wild.
Yeah, it really was. But, even though a lot of guys, Mike Haynes, in the Hall of Fame, pro football, college football, John Jefferson, one of the greatest receivers at ASU ever, stellar pro career. John Harris, who was a sophomore safety on defense, went to play with the Seahawks and did a great job. Larry Gordon, one of the best linebackers that ASU ever had, unfortunately died way too young, but was a first-round grant pick by the Miami Dolphins, and started was killing until his untimely death.
Right.
We had good guys, but we didn't have a team. Like when I get together with my old teammates and they go, well, 1971 was undefeated, blah, blah, this and that. I go, yeah, but look at what you had. Yeah. You had a veteran offense. We had sophomores. We had a sophomore quarterback that these were good kids. In fact, do you want me to keep on here? You interrupt me.
Hell yeah, come on.
Well, in 75, we went through that season. We started off with 3 quarterbacks in rotation.
Really?
Fred Mortensen, Dennis Sproul, and Bruce Hardy.
Oh, okay.
Now, Bruce Hardy was a beast. He came out the first high school athlete to ever don the cover of Sports Illustrated. He was an All-American.
Really?
He was an All-American basketball player, football player, and track star out of Utah. All-American, first team.
Wow.
Did it all. came to, and he was 6'5", 215 pounds. He was a beast.
Exactly. He had all of it. And like you said, just to make sure I echo that, he was the first high schooler on Sports Illustrated
On their cover, yes.
And he was a Sun Devil, for lack of.
And
he was
came
a Sun
to ASU. And
wow, that's cool.
When he came, we were just thinking, damn, did we just get someone good? You know, this.
Yeah.
But along comes Dennis Sproul, who had that California flair out of Los Angeles. That, you know, Dennis was a natural born freaking leader. He was just he was amazing. And then you got Freddie Mortensen that came off of, he was an all-star in Phoenix, a all-state quarterback at Tempe High School, broke all records. And he was a Mormon, so he went on a 2-year Mormon mission.
Okay.
He came back. Essentially, he was a sophomore. So you got these three sophomores vying for a quarterback position, and all year we rotated. One game we would start with Fred. One game we'd start with Dennis. If Dennis would start to mess up, Fred would go in. Bruce unfortunately got hurt early in the season, little hampering things. But I can tell you, as a center, it's hard, and it's hard for offensive linemen to adjust to different quarterbacks. You can see it when a starter goes out and a substitute comes in, especially timing, like cadence and everything.
Right.
And you don't think about it, but it's really important because they all have their own unique styles of cadence.
I was going to say, were they all the same style quarterback, or was it kind of distincted, like one was more pro style, and that they were all the same style quarterback?
No, they weren't. Bruce, unfortunately, we didn't get to see a lot there because he got hampered early on with some nagging injuries. But the switch was between Dennis Sproul and Freddie Mortensen, both of which are great people and just great athletes. Freddie was a really good quarterback in that, but he didn't command the offense like Dennis did. Dennis was a lineman. I always call it. He was a lineman's quarterback. If you needed the F-bomb dropped on you and the guy in your face grabbing your helmet, besides that was Dennis. He would come into the huddle and look at you and call you everything in the book and grab your helmet and go, "You're better than that. Block this time on that. You need to do that."
That's cool.
Freddie was a businessman. He would, well, let's get on and do this. Each had their own talents, and both were excellent quarterbacks. Like I said, people might not realize, and I would say this to Jake or any of those 96 guys.
Right.
You had your quarterback from day one. We didn't know who was going to be playing. We didn't know who was starting game to game. We didn't, honestly, it's just
whoever it was.
No, we did not know until game day. Frank, during practice week, they both took equal reps, and then Frank made the decision game day who was going to start. And to couple with that, he'd give them a quarter, 2 quarters, and if they weren't doing anything, he'd yank them and bring the other ones in.
Yep.
That's tough on an offense, an experienced offense. But when you have sophomores, that's a tough thing to throw at them.
That's interesting too, because like you said, it's like does it make him the line more malleable in the sense that, hey, someone's coming in, so it's like, okay, I can shift a little bit more quickly depending on whoever we're dealing with?
I think it's what made those sophomores the athletes that they became, because there was no question. If we were going to succeed, you had to do it. You just had to do it. So they did it. They adapted and they did it. And that's a great thing, that bunch of guys. They just did it. Now, the one thing about Sun Devil fans, I love them, but Sun Devil fans can be very treacherous too. And
guilty, unfortunately. Guilty, but yes.
Well, back before your days, let me tell you what it was like in the 70s. And I went out in 71 and watched that season. I saw a packed house at Sun Devil Stadium. I forget what team we were playing, but at halftime we were beating them 50-something. And it came out at second half, and Danny went out on the field for the series, and I think scored another touchdown. They drove him for another touchdown, threw it to pass to Steve Holden, and he ran like a gazelle for 50 yards.
Right.
Well, then Frank put him out and everybody else out and started rotating. Score was something to nothing.
Exactly.
Jedi, the fans started booing. They started booing because they wanted that score to be 200-0.
Well, yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I
And you
understand.
know what?
Yeah.
That was the whole mentality of it. So actually in 75, because 74 was like the bleed over year.
Right.
Yeah, we weren't as good. They didn't score as many. We didn't score as much as the 71 or 70, 71, 72 teams did.
Exactly.
We didn't win by those wide margins, but we were winning. And in 75, believe it or not, I mean, we used to get ridiculed. Wow, they're not. We're 5-0. Okay, we're 7-0. We're 8-0. Well, they're not scoring points. Well, we're winning games, dude.
It's freaking brilliant. So all us Sun Devil fans have never been content, regardless of the era.
Well, yeah. And you know what? As a fan, let me tell you what my wife does at high school.
Please.
Our kids will be beating a team 50-0.
Right.
And they in the fourth quarter they'll throw in, everyone else to get a chance playing.
Of course, get some points.
She goes nuts. They're going to score on us.
She wants the shutout.
I say, Sherry, just calm. They're getting play. Yeah, but I don't want them to score.
Exactly. I don't want them to score.
She would have been a great ASU fan. But anyway,
I love it.
Anyway,
that's brilliant.
That was one of the things with us, and it was something we didn't really dwell on at the time. But you did me in particular, because I was there. These sophomores weren't there, but I was there when. Hey, for us to score 50, 60 points in a game was nothing. And it was like, yeah, we're winning, but we got to pick it up. It's like, what do you mean pick it up? We're winning.
You got an average to maintain.
Yeah, what's going on?
Exactly. Well, it's 7:10. If what I would like to do, go ahead real quick before we take our break. You're going to share.
No, go ahead.
You were going to share something before we take our break.
Yeah, but it was already.
All right. Okay. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to take another 10-minute bio break, reload, and everything else. We just completed our second hour, and I am having a brilliant time, Jim. So thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate
thank you.
Your time and everything else, but I would definitely want to talk a little bit more. We're gonna take a break. I want to bring up the 75 schedule, right, and look through that and kind of talk through some of the individual games as well, so we can go through that. So everyone in the chat, really appreciate everyone in the chat as well. So again, we will be back in 10 minutes. Make sure you refill your drink, hit the head, and then we will resume in 10 minutes. Thanks, everyone. Talk shortly. Welcome back, everyone. Happy Friday. Hopefully, you are doing well. It is a good Friday night. It appears that we're going to have quite the game between Oregon and USC. I think Oregon's driving right now, so we'll see what's going on out there. But Jim, I don't know if you have the other game. I don't know if you have the Pac-12 championship in the back.
I don't. No, I don't.
That's okay. It's an interesting back and forth. But I got the schedule up right now. So again, you opened up against Washington. So you opened up against the Huskies, which is interesting because even the 96 team opened up against the Huskies, but you did a little bit better, right? It took a last second field goal for the 96 team to go ahead and beat Washington, but you guys won. It looks like here it was 35-12. So what was it like that first game?
Well, I'll tell you, we went in, like I said earlier, Jedi, we adapted this attitude of we were taking one game at a time, and we never talked about the following game or the season as a whole. So we were totally honed in on Washington. In fact, we had a running back, Mark Lovett, who is no longer with us. Mark passed away years ago, but Mark was a great motivator. He was a running back, just one of those guys that just when you needed to pick up, he would pick you up. In fact, at Camp Tonazona, we always had to have our name on the front of the helmet. Okay. And he had Lovett up there, but then he took a piece of tape and on the back part of his helmet, it said goodbye for him going past you.
That's so cool.
I'll tell you, for that first game, we knew it's do or die time for us because we came off that disappointing, although it was a winning season. Right. It was disappointing for ASU in every sense. And Mark came up with this. I think it was him. I can't recall, but I know Mark's the one that got out and he said, "Hey, let's do this in our warm-up." So he came up with this thing that we would all sit and we started clapping as a team. We got in our rows. And we did this when they were coming out on the field. And Mark would yell. We put him out in front to lead our agilities.
Right.
And the thing was, what do we eat? And then the whole he would yell out, "What do we eat?" The whole team would yell, "Husky meat."
Oh, okay.
And he would say, "How do we eat it?" And we'd say, "Raw." Well, the great thing was the student section, which was always right behind us, got onto this. So throughout the stadium, it went from us doing it, and I'm sure fans going, "What the hell are they saying?" The students picked it up, and then the whole stadium, Sun Devil fans are going, "Wow. What do we eat? Husky eat. We eat them raw." And it was just a great game. They had a good team. I mean, I think I'm pretty sure in my scrapbook here, believe it or not, sure. I got a great scrapbook. They were favored to beat us. They were predicted to beat us in that game. And we came out and just took to them. I mean, it was a great game. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. 35-12 is brilliant. And I'm looking
as a matter of fact, Bruce Hardy started that game at quarterback.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
And he was in there. That's interesting. So he got the overall start for the season, which is wild.
He did. Between there was articles that were brought up going in and up to that game, no one in Arizona knew, including us, the other players, who was going to be our starting quarterback because between Bruce, Dennis, and Freddie Mortensen, they all shared equal time at camp and when we came back to the Valley. So we didn't know, but Bruce got the nod and went in, and he started the game, but he came in and actually pulled that game out, not out for us. We beat him pretty good, but Bruce just couldn't get anything. Freddie Mortensen came in and did it. Now, Dennis, he was hurt going into that game. He had gotten some bruised ribs, so he didn't play at all. But that's how that started.
That's cool. And then it was at Texas Christian, TCU. Then you had BYU and Idaho at home. And then you went to New Mexico. And that seems to be one of the closer games. At New Mexico, it was a win 16-10.
Right.
And yeah, that was up in Albuquerque.
Right. And they had some some really good players down there. I'm trying to think who started that game. I can't recall which guy started, but I know whoever started didn't stay in. It was this rotation with one wouldn't do anything. And to Coach Cush, you got 2 series. If you didn't do anything, your ass was out of there. Someone else was going in.
Right.
So there was a lot of pressure on the quarterbacks for that. But then, like I said to you earlier, all of a sudden you got a different guy calling out the cadence.
Right.
And if you've played the game or just listened, they're not the same. I mean, each person has an individual way of how they go about the ready, set, and even that split second, that ready.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, say the next part, but you have to do so.
You're just waiting.
It really became our thing of during that year and up till that point of
right.
Fred's in here or Bruce is in here, and that's what it's going to be. I'm trying to think. I wrote down some notes. I'm trying to think when Bruce started in that. I don't know if that. No, it wasn't Texas. What were you calling New Mexico?
New Mexico. Yep.
They had an incredible middle linebacker by the name of Robin. Oh man, I can't remember his last name. Went on to Pittsburgh Steelers and had a great career there.
Okay.
But he pretty much, our inside trap game has always been, at least under the Cush era, inside traps were just our bread and butter on running. And this linebacker just was so instinctive. He's single-handedly sort of shut that down. So
wow,
we had to go to our passing game in that game, I remember.
No wonder it was so close, and you had just one player making just those game changes.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And that was part of a 2-road stretch. You had at New Mexico and then at Colorado State. At Colorado State, you blew them out 33-3. Then you came back home. UTEP was 24.
Let me tell you something about Colorado State game.
Yeah.
Let me give in case forever he would hear it. Colorado State, we went in there and we knew we should just beat this team, and we did. However, they had a nose guard playing that on their team at the time. His name was Fred Paoli, and Fred had played 74 and 75 was his senior year, like mine. So him and I were familiar with each other.
Okay.
He was a great guy, and believe me, it's hard maybe for some people to understand, but we only see these guys one time out of the year when you play, but you get to know them in a personal way. When before that game kicked off, I had a fever of 102 degrees. I literally could not move. I was sick. And
wow.
I told Coach Cush, Coach, I don't think I can do this. I was throwing up. I just had a bad flu or cold, whatever it was.
Right.
And Frank, that meeting went, well, Jimmy, you have to play this game. I said, okay, Coach. He goes, listen, just give it your best shot. Ron Paoli had 17 tackles in that game.
Oh, man.
And let me tell you, we came out, most of them saying I'm giving him all the credit because he was a great guy. We were just kicking their ass, and we owned them in that game. And they knew it. I mean, that score could have been more than that. We did some stupid things, offensive fumble and whatever, defensive did some things. I came out after the half, and the second series in on offense, he came up. I think that game was televised. I know it because I threw up on it. And my wife back at school said back then they didn't have that time delay, and I ran up over the ball and vomited. You are an idiot, but
Coach said I had to play.
Coach said I had to play, but second half I came up midway through the quarter, and Fred goes, "Hey, Heilig," he goes, "Aren't you feeling good?" I go, I'm beat. I said, I got this freaking bug in me. He goes, you're kicking our ass. He goes, I'll take it easy because he was super quick. That was the thing. He wasn't. He was super quick. So I gotta say, in my college career, it was one time where a defensive guy said, "Hey, you're kicking ass. I'll take it. Let's just hit each other." Okay. So That was a
And
cool game.
that's actually very cool. And before we went on, that's actually interesting how you said that. I've actually asked this of a lot of players, right? In previous, what were some of those of the play? So during your playing time,
Yeah.
like you said, there were people that you saw at least once a year during your tenure,
Sure.
right? Who was the most difficult player you had to go up against, and who was the one you enjoyed going up against, even
Well,
if it's
the most difficult player that I had to go up against was on my own team, and that was Zach DeBrill.
really
He was our nose guard. He was a linebacker in high school. Zach DeBrill was the quickest defensive lineman off the ball, and I think all my teammates would say of anybody. Zach could come off the ball, and he was strong as anything. He wasn't real big, but he was super quick and strong. But as far as opposing players, I would say probably the toughest guy, nose guard that I played against was John Lee from Nebraska when we played them. He was a second-team All-American behind one of the Selman brothers back in that era, Dewey or Leroy. I don't know which one, but he was strong. But the thing with our offense, we didn't really care about that because our offense was geared on speed, and all our backs needed was a quick little shot, a little hole. Right. And one thing that I had found in my playing days anyways was the guys like to overpower you. They like to show the strength. Well, I could really give a shit about that, and to your point, there was a guy, the nose guard of New Mexico that year, and I remember his name well. It was Ron Schultz. This guy had probably 29-inch biceps. He was monstrous.
Wow. Okay.
It was funny because we knew what he'd do. He actually would get into not a 3-point stance. He would get into a 2-point stance with his forearm ready to crush your helmet. And
wow.
Yeah, just drill the center. And I knew that, our senior year, we got a new line. It was Butch Metcalf, and Coach Metcalf, he had played football at Oklahoma under Bud Wilkinson, which I don't know. I'm sure you're familiar with that name. He's legendary in the high school coaching ranks. But Coach Metcalf said, Jimmy, I'm going to tell you, this guy's got big. His arms are bigger than his legs, and he likes to be a punisher, but he's not a very bright defensive player. His whole thing is to hit you hard with his forearm, and we're going to run the inside traps on him all day. So your blocking is this. Whichever side he takes, just drive him because we're gonna go off your ass. And Ron Schultz, I went up and he put that forearm down, and he goes, I'll never forget it. He put the forearm down, and I looked up at him, and he goes, I'm gonna bust your skull. And we fired out. We did an inside trap. We went like 39 yards. I came back and I said, hey, keep busting the skull. They gave me a real good helmet. I said, that didn't really hurt. So, we had a great game. But it was very close. It was really a close game down there.
Yeah, that was the Nebraska game. I'm looking at it, 17-14 win. And so after that, so it was Colorado State. You were sharing that one. UTEP was 24-6.
Yeah. That was a revenge game because they beat us a little before.
Yeah. And then the other close game, which is actually always interesting. So if everyone looks back, Wyoming is brilliant now, but Wyoming has actually always been quite the thorn in ASU side. They were always good back in the day.
They were. I'll tell you this: if you look, and I could be mistaken, the coach at the time was a coach, Fred Ackerman or Akers, I believe. Okay. But it was his year at Wyoming. It was his first year. The thing with the Wyoming game, we knew going into that defensively that was going to be a tough game. They had a tough defense, but defensively, because they ran a wishbone and they ran it to perfection.
It was Fred Akers. You are correct. Fred Akers.
Yes. And we never played a wishbone offense. Our defense
Really?
had never seen it. And you're very knowledgeable. And an offense like that is difficult to come up defensively and understand in a week. And that's what made the wishbone so amazing. Teams that really adapted it was defenses just didn't see it all the time. And it was a very difficult offense to defense against.
And no one's really using it at the college level anymore, are they?
No, that sort of has gone. It's more like they do that. I don't know, what do they call it? The run option spread. It's sort of like
the RPO whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They've refined it and called it something else. But back then, I mean, you have scout teams and our scout teams were great. I'm not taking anything away. They're not first team offenses. And Wyoming ran that freaking offense to the T, and especially when they played us. Yeah. But the great thing in that game was, we know the whole time what was going on, what was why can't we score a few more points? Now our offense sputtered in that game, if I remember right. I think we had a couple fumbles that we were driving on and getting close, and we fumbled. One of those games. But to their coach's credit, I should say for us, they hit the 20 mark, and there was like 7.5 minutes left to go in that game. And the decision was no overtime back then.
Because you could still have ties, right?
What's that? Yeah, there were still ties.
Okay.
So the decision on Coach Akers was, do you go on and tie this team and hope to get the ball back and run, or do we go for 2 and go ahead and hold them off? Well, we went for 2. And the quarterback they had was a very mobile quarterback. Can't remember his name. He was good, though. And he kept the ball, and he rolled. It was that wishbone, but he kept the ball and went running. They've been doing that to us all game. Well, thank God John Harris, our sophomore, this time saw it coming and just did an all-out blitz from his safety position and stopped that quarterback on the 1 yard line. It was amazing. It was in my mind, it was one of the most memorable. I mean, we were on the sideline going, oh my God, no. and John Harris came up and just drilled him.
He just came in
on his back on the 1 yard line.
That's so cool.
Now they still had 7 minutes left to go in that game, and they kicked off to us, and we moved a little, but we ended up punting back to them, and there was, I don't know, 5 minutes to go in the game, and our defense held them. They punted to us, and there was a little over 3 minutes to go, and we held the ball. Unfortunately, ended up beating them. And these are the things that a lot of the people, who's the better team, they look and go, well, you almost got beat here. Well, the fact is we didn't get beat there.
You didn't. Absolutely.
No.
Question for you, and then there's a couple of questions in the chat, but I wanted to ask you, in your scrapbook, do you have box scores or do you have play-by-plays? And there's a reason for this. I'm asking.
You pretty much have them all.
Okay. And the reason I'm looking for play-by-plays is because I create a diagram of the game.
Okay.
I've done this and what happens is that it's just an infographic, right, of showing a field, right, and then it shows when did the team run, when did the team pass, when did they score, when did they punt, and all this other stuff. So I would love to see some of that. It's difficult for me to be able to find some of those games online. So if you have any of those box, I would. If you sent me just like a picture from your phone, I would love to see those.
Okay. Well, listen, when they did a big thing for our team, the alumni association did at the Legends luncheon back there 1 year. I gave them this, and they took a lot out of it. And I half think Dan, because he or his wife was involved in printing things like this, I think he took all these and copied them down and made a little book for himself. I'll check on that. I'll give Danny a call and find out. And
I sent him an email. I sent
Okay.
Danny an email, so make sure you tell him I'm looking for him because I'd love to have both of you on the show. This way, it'd be just a good banter back and forth.
Okay. Yep.
Question from Paul, and this is something that I have difficulty answering. Maybe you can as well. But what's the difference between wishbone and triple option? Relative to what Army, Air Force, and Navy are running currently in the modern era.
Currently,
yeah,
not a whole lot. I mean, that's basically. I think wishbone was the birth child of all of those offenses, those multiple option offenses, because that's what it was basically. The quarterback took the ball, started rolling down the running backs in his gut. He'd either put out and go. If he'd watch it, he'd have his eyes on the linebacker. Is he coming up to get this guy? What's he going to do? If he saw the commitment, he'd pull it out, go. And if he saw a corner coming up on him for the run, he'd just dump it off with that receiver coming across. So,
okay.
I think I could be wrong, and you could check it out. I think Texas was the first team to come up with that wishbone.
Oh, interesting.
Darryl Royal or something. That's I don't know why.
And I'm you know what it is. I'm probably going to pick your brain on this one because I'm creating a new video series based, really around learning football, specifically college football. So that question from Paul Hornstein really plays into it. So,
sure,
looking at the history and all this other stuff. So that's something that I'll send you an email on because I absolutely love your email address, by the way. It's so cool. So if you ever happen to meet Jim and are blessed enough to get his email address, it's probably one of the coolest emails I've ever seen.
Hey, you can give it out. I don't care. I'll talk to any Sun Devil fan.
Excellent.
I'm retired. I got time.
Hey, that's good. That's good. And so now looking through this with Wyoming, right? It was a close 21-20. Pacific, which is wild because Pacific is just, a short 30 miles away from my home in Stockton. I'm in the Bay Area, but they had a football team. You thraxed them 55-14. And then the Territorial Cup with the other school, November 29th. It was a 24-21. If I remember correctly, at the end of the season, they were ranked number 18. ASU was ranked number 2 after that game. So that was actually in Tempe. So,
going into that game, though,
yes,
they were ranked, I think, number 8.
I think they were.
We were number 6.
It was both single-digit rankings from what I recall as well. And so, Phoenix, the Phoenix area fans were always up for that one. They were always ready to just, burn down the other team. But I mean, describe the. I mean, we've all seen, how electric it can be. But I mean, describe what it was back in '75 when the other team came in. You were just ready. What was it like?
Well, I tell a lot of people, and they always say, "What's it like to play in a stadium like that with you got 50,000 plus fans and they're just rabid and
sell out, which is cool."
Honestly, I am, and I say this in all sincerity. There's only really 2 games in my career that I recall fans and the bleachers and everything, and that was the U of A game and the Nebraska game.
Oh, those last 2. Okay.
The last 2, and because as a young kid playing, it becomes a repetitious thing that it's business. This is what I got to do. Here we do. And back then, the stadium, we were at the activities building down there, where now on south end of the stadium sits the Hall of Fame or whatever they have all the stuff in. Well, that's where we had just a single level locker room, and it had a little ramp going up. We went through the end zone, through the student section, but we did it all year. And, you got your helmet on, you're thinking about the game. And I have a horrible habit, and I had it ever since I was in junior high school. My gut would turn flips, and I was always vomiting before a game. And I just did one of my things. In fact, in the U of A game, I was sitting in front of my locker, and I mean, my gut was flipping around, and Frank looked at me and said, "Are you going in there to do that or what?" That was the catalyst I went into it. But back to your question, Mike Haynes and I, we never were on the field when they played the national anthem, which I hated because that was a real motivator for me in high school, is to be out there and hear that and then get business. But we went out for the coin toss before the game. We did for all of our home games.
Right.
But this time we got out, we walked through the bleachers, and we came out. And unbeknownst to us, the Sun Angels had dispersed to every fan coming through. Of course, except if you were a kitty cat, they were giving gold pom poms to everyone.
Oh yes, of course, yeah.
So Michael and I walked up through doing our thing. The referee, captains, coin toss. So we went out, and it was a big game to begin with because, hey, there was a lot riding. If they beat us, because they had lost one conference game, we had lost nothing. They were 5-1, we were 6-0 conference, and if they beat us, they go to the Fiesta Bowl because they beat us. And there was a lot riding on it. We walked up, and as soon as we hit the opening, there was this tremendous roar, and that whole stadium turned gold because all these gold pom-poms went up.
Oh, that's so cool.
I looked at Michael and said, "Do you believe this?" And I'll never forget, Michael goes, "I don't think my feet are on the ground." I said, "This is amazing." And we did the coin toss and went in, and guys we were around, they're going, "What the hell? What was that, all that noise?" We go, "Just wait and see." And we went out, and it was freaking amazing. And they did the same thing in Fiesta Bowl. It was pretty wild there. But, yeah.
That's so cool. Always electric to be able to just be part of that game. Obviously, there are particular years that are better than others. But, I mean, just like you said, I'm guessing there was no doubt in your mind. It's like, we're going to, we're going to kick your ass.
Well, let me tell you, going into the half, I got to admit, I was thinking, these guys are good. They're pretty.
They were. They were ranked.
They were actually on us going in minutes before the half. And then, of course, history was made.
Right.
Without controversy, however. But when they sent in the play that we had ran all year, when JJ streaked across the center of the end zone, it was a very quick. Dennis got up under me, and it was a snap. He just stood up, and JJ was just sprinting across the middle.
He was already there. Wow.
And it was just a snap to Dennis, and that quick, as soon as he got the ball, it was out of his hands. And for me, I'm going out on my guy. My focus is right in front of me, and that's where JJ propels himself like a missile and catches that freaking ball that, of course, the kitty cats claim to this day the ball was never a catch and hit the ground and all this, but that's what losers are supposed to do.
That's right. I was living in, so I was a youngling then when that play. So, I wasn't following football at that age. My dad was more a baseball fan. And so, looking back, I'm like, wow, that happened, when I was still around. And just like you said, it's always a point of dispute, but you know what? It's always a touchdown in our hearts forever. Always gonna be.
Always.
And there's always, there's a picture of it, and I don't know, I'll send it to you.
I was actually
video. The one from a few years ago, and ABC did it, and then they showed it, and it was a brilliant catch. So it's just that's again one of the reasons I have that. It may be illegal in some people's eyes, but there's history there that we got to be able to share out there with everyone else.
Let me tell you
please
about that. AJ on that just real quick if I can. I don't want to take up all. John Jefferson was the hardest working receiver, and I'm good friends with Morris Owens and Greg Hudson and all those guys.
Right.
They'll admit it. John Jefferson was the hardest working wide receiver that I ever saw anything.
Now explain that, because I've heard the similar things about Jerry Rice. So what does it mean, hard worker? Give me a description.
Frank, he used to drive Frank crazy. Well, we had a coach come on board, Richard Mann, who became the year before. He became, or 73, he became the receivers coach.
Okay.
And Coach Mann went on. He just retired from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He became the Pittsburgh Steelers receivers coach. And Coach Mann was a tight end at ASU. But anyway.
Oh, okay.
John Jefferson, when he came to ASU, he was John Washington, by the way.
Okay.
And then he was adopted by his stepfather, and his name became John Jefferson. Yes.
Okay.
His first year, he was John Morton.
Very cool. Okay.
JJ used to go out prior to practice, after the practice. He would run along the side of the field, up the line, across the back of the end zone, down the other side. He would do this for however long he had time, holding a football and propelling himself out and coming down on his side. It used to drive Coach Cush crazy because he'd say, JJ, I don't want you to get hurt. And he said,
exactly.
And he would say, Coach, how am I going to know how hard to hold this ball, make a catch, and come down like that? It's the only way. He would.
Wow.
I'm not kidding you. Anyone that played with you, because the receivers used to say, "What the hell's wrong with you?" Because they think now Cush is going to make them do this, But,
and he would be doing it. I mean, in all honesty, like you're saying, he practiced that catch. He practiced that catch. He knew what it was. And when that number called, of all the innumerable possibilities in the universe, in our history, literally, he actually was ready for it, and that's why that's why it's a catch. Damn it!
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right, because as teammates, we saw the catch, and it was great, but to us, it wasn't spectacular because, well, that's what JJ does.
You saw it every day after practice.
He does that. It's only after you leave the game, then you sit and you watch it and look and go, that is freaking unworldly. What did he do there?
Oh my God.
He literally did a long jump. He propelled himself out there to that ball.
That's so cool.
But that's why he was a great NFL receiver. So.
Yeah, exactly. And so now for tomorrow, right? Obviously, we're playing in Corvallis. We're playing in the cold, right? For Sun Devils, anyway. Yeah. Your thoughts on the game tomorrow? What do you think is? I mean, what do you want to see tomorrow? What do you want to see in tomorrow's game, other than a win, obviously?
Well, what I would like to see is just that they fight with the same tenacity as if it was they were 10-0. And you know what? You go out there. To me, and it was one of the things I think you heard last week with the 96 guys, our goal was to leave ourselves on the field. Every game, no matter what happened, every game we were going to give it 100% of what we had to offer. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I think you saw against Arizona. I think you saw a bunch of guys going, you know what, the hell with this. And they just played. They played all-out football, and
they did.
They played. They sacrificed themselves. To me, it was like watching Arizona State high school. They played football with a passion and loved it.
There was no let up, and they didn't let off the gas either. I mean, everyone. No. I think you may see some of that. I don't know if you've seen some of that. I know it was actually on the social media sphere, right? It's like, look at Herm Edwards not letting off the gas. when he's always trying to keep it close, and I'm like, ASU didn't step off the gas. It's just the other school just didn't try after a while.
Right. We had a coach back here, a high school coach that actually coached. He was the offensive coordinator at Ohio State when Woody Hayes was there when they won some national championships. He's from the area, and he came to the area and actually coached my high school. And he would never let off he was beating high school.
Why? Exactly.
65-0, 70-0. And they would go, why are you doing that? He goes, hey, I am putting in, if you pay attention, I play every kid on this bench. But if you think for 1 minute I'm going to tell them to take a knee and back off. You're crazy. He goes, I'm not trying to embarrass that team. That team should be embarrassed. They need to get back and work. That's what it's all about. He goes, I'm here to coach my kids and put them out. And I think that's what we did at ASU. I mean, back in the days when they did score 60, 70 points. It's like, play football. You know, you don't like to score, work harder. We get our asses busted. Yeah.
Absolutely. Stop me because I'm not going to stop myself. Stop me and then we'll go. And that's the other thing too. I mean, and there's a ton of injuries tomorrow. And so, especially on the Oregon State side, I think that's one of the things that it will play to our advantage is that there's a number of key players on the Oregon State team, you know, that they have to deal with. Whereas, you know, ASU's only playing their third game, right? So everyone is fairly healthy, right? So now this was another question. This one just kind of came in, and I have a series of questions for you as we wrap up. But one of the questions that I just came up as a former player, other than the years you've played, what is your favorite ASU victory that you have witnessed after your years of playing? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Well, I'll throw it back to our comrades, the '96 team, the opening game with Nebraska when Nebraska was ranked number 1, and they come in, and you know the funny thing, I don't know if you know this, in '95, after that season, the spring of '96, Coach Snyder, he came up with a brilliant idea of there for some years for him. He would have, and it wasn't a maroon and gold game. It was an alumni game where he actually invited past players to come and play the current Sun Devil team in the spring game.
Okay.
I played in that game.
Did you?
In '96. Yeah, their spring game leading the end of their
Interesting.
Season.
Okay.
Yeah. And my experience with Pat Tillman was this. I went out at center, and Tillman walks up to the line and looks at me, and he goes, I sure hope you drank your tall today, old man.
Look at him.
Yeah. And then I readily Jeff Van Raphorst was in the quarterback, and he called a play, but he started out of the shotgun. I said, whoa, timeout. I never did any shotgun stuff. It was all under center. He goes, well, did you snap for extra points? I said, yeah. He goes, it's like that. Needless to say, the ball went 5 yards over his head. They got.
Oh man.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I forget the. I'm sorry, I got rambling there.
That's all right. No, but I mean, it's like so the Nebraska game, right? Was there any other?
The Nebraska game to me was just an amazing start, and my buddies and I that sat here and watched it. You
were home then?
Oh, I was home. I'm back here, and I said to them, I said, you know what? This is the beginning of something good, because in '96, in '95, that same team was 6-5. We were 75. We were 75. We talked about this. That ASU team. The parallel between us. The year before their '96 season, they were 6-5. We were 7-5 before our 12-0 season. And it just runs a gamut. And hearing Ron Roque saying, we came in with a different mindset, saying this was not going to happen again, blah, blah, blah. It really mirrored on what happened with us. So absolutely. That's why I think that game to me, I just, boy, they are on the move on this. Yeah, I think their good things are going to come. And it did.
Interesting thing about that game, and I've shared this a few times, and that was my first game as a Sun Devil. I actually I transferred in from the other school. I actually went to the other school, took some time off, went to community college, and then worked full time. But then I transferred into ASU, and that was my first game. Was the Nebraska game.
Awesome.
That's quite the birthday, if you will.
Awesome. Absolutely. I mean, think about it. I mean, I'm sitting back here, like I say, they were 6-5, and the year before, and I thought, well, let's see what's going on. I do like the team, having been pounded by them in the spring game, but let's see what happens. And man, they took it to them. And I told my buddy, who's a big football fan, I said, I think this team can be really good. He goes, I think you're right. And sort of
Exactly.
went on.
They called it. And that's an interesting thing you've shared with everything that your experience and even the parallels with the 96 team. It's like, I think, given this 2020 turning into the 2021 team, if they take the same approach like you guys did with being able to unifying yourself in the spring, right? One game at a time, being unified and just being together as one, having that experience at Camp Tantazona and just being together as a unified unit. And then hopefully some of those seniors that are expected to kind of, we thought were going to the NFL coming back. 2021, and again, seems to be in a very, very exciting year for Sun Devil football. Your thoughts?
I agree. I totally agree. And the guys that, like I say, my group of old graybeards, we agree with that. I mean, we're really looking forward to it. When they hired Coach Edwards, I got to be honest with you, there were some naysayers going, what's up with this and this move?
Yeah, I was one of them because I didn't know.
Yeah, and I think it's a great move, and I think what he's doing is good. I love the things he said. I wish I could sit down, and I plan on trying to sit down with him more and talk. But in the few times that we have met and talked,
oh, wonderful! You have met him. Good.
Oh yeah, I love what I told him when he came out, and I don't know if you remember, they talked about in the press. He has what he calls Hermanisms, which is little snippets that he says to the team. I said,
sir.
I every year or every other year, the coach at my high school always has me come back before the season starts, and I go talk to them, and we talk about not so much my time at Central Dauphin High School, but more at ASU and that 75 team and what happened there. And Coach Edwards' Hermanism that I love the best, he says you're male by birth, but you're a man by choice. I say, Coach, you know what? If you sit back and think of those few words, they're powerful. They're very powerful.
Absolutely.
And he goes, well, I truly believe it. He goes, and that's what I want to get across to these guys. You got to be a man about things. That's where you're at. That's your choice. That isn't. You're not a man like it says. You're a male by birth, but a man by choice. And I just love that, and I think he's on to the right thing. He's certainly a lot different than Coach Cush. I mean, when I went to his first spring game or first spring practice, and he's out there joking with receivers, and someone would mess up and go, that's all right, get back in there and do it right. I'm thinking, oh my God, Frank would have been, he'd have had half his foot up your ass and moving on and doing everything else.
And it would have been all kinds of words, colorful metaphors.
Oh my God, after practice, you would be there an hour running until your legs fell off. That was it. But different time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a few more questions for you, my friend. I actually always ask this of my guests. And so these series of questions I want to ask. So a few. So one of them is, what talent would you like to have most that you don't have currently? What talent would you like to have?
That's a good question. What talent don't I have that I really? Well, I try my best. I think I would really like to be probably I think I'm a good father. I would like to be more up-to-date, understanding father to my kids.
That's actually as a father, I actually appreciate that as well. You know, that's actually a brilliant point. Because as fathers, we're always trying every day. It's not that we're just as I tell my kids, I'm not an asshole. I'm just trying to be a dad.
Yeah, like my kids would say to that. Well, then get out of the 1970s. It's 2020. Things are different.
Yeah, exactly.
It is, and I'll tell you, it's the thing you have to do. I got out and I went into law enforcement. I was 29 years in the police force. I was a violent crimes, homicide, and robbery detective. And my wife is one that steered me straight in things that, I go see some horrific things and things people do to one another. And I would come home and have one of my little kids freaking out because the chain came off their bike and they couldn't get it on. And I would somewhat lose it over it. And my wife would pull me aside and go, listen, I know compared to what you did all day, this is small, but they have been waiting for you all day to fix it because you're the man to fix it. Don't act like that. And I think in perspective, the hard thing to do, what you have to strive to do and try to do is put things in the now. It is what it is, and this is a situation, and it is very serious, no matter how small it is in the big picture of things. But
absolutely. Well, God bless your wife. I can't wait to meet her because I have gotten those conversations as well. So we're always looking towards to be better. So now the question is again, another one for you again, other than family, other than your home and other things.
Okay.
What's your most treasured possession?
Without saying my family. Wow. I don't know.
Well, without your family, without your home, obviously because we love those with all our heart, but what is that one treasured possession you have?
Well, the next thing after that is the ability and the opportunity I was given by Coach Cush and them to come out to Arizona and be a part of the Sun Devil family. Really.
Wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's again a brilliant.
All those memories and being a part of the family. It really is. I mean, the gals over at the Alumni Association are just great with us. I hear from them. I talk to Tanya, a lot, and Glenn Crawford and a lot of the guys. We stuck together. I mean, we keep in touch with each other. It's just that to possess that that you can fall back on, make a call, even if you don't talk for a year or two, and say, hey, what's up? And it's like yesterday,
That's what I've heard. A lot of you guys that just, you may be thousands of miles apart. You may not have talked in months or years, but just because of that experience that you've had, you've gone into battle and you just, you've had that shared experience. It's just like it picks up and you just
very unique. It's very unique.
That's brilliant. That's wonderful. And so two more questions. This next one is a lot of people have shared. Please describe your most memorable experience at a restaurant, whether it be.
Okay, that's easy.
Yeah.
Okay, we go. This is in my sophomore.
Okay.
The term smorgasbord had come about, and a bunch of us, after a spring day of hard, brutal practice, I can remember the name. It was called King's Table. It was over somewhere.
Oh, I remember that place.
Yeah. It's out off of Southern Aurora, or it was out that way somewhere.
It was a buffet type place, right?
It was buffet, yeah.
Oh, man.
So we go in. There was four of us that went in after a brutal Saturday scrimmage at spring, and someone said, let's go over to that smorgasbord place and get some lunch. So we go over, and we were there probably a good 3 hours and had about 10 pounds of chicken wings and everything else on our table. And the manager came up and said, hey, fellas, are you about done? And one of the guys with us, who's no longer with us, he said, well, I thought this was all you can eat.
Exactly.
The manager goes, well, isn't this pretty much all you can eat? And my other buddy that I played with back here, he goes, oh, no, we haven't even started yet.
Oh, my God.
And, yeah, but Bobby Bruni, being the diplomat he was there. He goes, all right, fellas, let's just go before this. I'm telling you, we must have. Oh, we destroyed it. So we actually got thrown out of a smorgasbord. Which how do you do that? All you can eat.
That's so funny. That's outstanding. So my last question for you, my friend, is actually one that I
I'm
saw on
losing
another
you.
podcast. Oh, hold on. Do we have you?
I'm
Wait,
there.
hold on.
I'm there.
You're there. I got you. All right.
Yep.
Last question that I got is from Rob Lowe. He was on Vanity. And so this question is from his podcast called Literally. So if you had to see one of these three things, what would it be and why? Okay. So if you had to see one of these three things, what would it be and why? A UFO, a ghost, or Bigfoot?
That's pretty interesting. Well, number one, I'll rule out Bigfoot because I don't think they can talk.
Okay.
UFO
Or a ghost.
Or ghost. Well, actually, and you might think it weird, I do believe I did see some type of
A ghost?
In my high school days, yes.
Really? So you're my second one. So please detail this, because there was another gentleman called Producer Wes. Again, you may have seen him. He was in the chat earlier. He's from Atlanta, and he actually he's seen several. He's seen one that he detailed. But how about yours?
Well, yeah, it was in the summer back here. It was going into my senior year and it was hot as hell. It was, back here in July, we have intense humidity, and it was really hot. And I was riding in a buddy of mine's car. He had a convertible, and we went past this old farmhouse that actually my aunt and uncle and their 5 kids had lived in.
Okay.
Some years before, and it was all dilapidated. And my aunt had since died, and she was. I mean, I never had a lot of problems with her, but she was pretty witchy, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
She was, yeah. And when we passed this driveway where their house was, I got this uncontrollable chill on me, and I told my buddy it was driving. I said, "Damn, did you feel that? Did we go through a cold area?" And he went, "What are you talking about? It's hot as hell." Well, fast forward to that night, I'm laying in my bed in my house, which we didn't have air conditioning, so it was just sticky and muggy. And I'm looking out into the hallway, and I swore that I saw my aunt walking by.
Oh my goodness.
And I didn't want to say anything, but then it got the best of me, and I said to my mom like 2 days later, I said, "You know what?" I said, "I got to tell you something." And I told her the story.
Right.
And she said, "Well," she goes, "I'll tell you something." She goes, 2 days ago, my mom and dad's bedroom was right down the hall from mom.
Right.
And mom said, "I'm just telling you this," but she said, "Just forget about it." And she told me, I told your dad, I swore I saw Aunt Esther walk past our bedroom.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's my ghost thing.
That's all right, man.
I did see that in my head. It could have been just. I mean, I wasn't drinking or anything. I don't know what.
Of course, you were
maybe it was in my head. I don't know. But I think the UFO, because I'm a believer. I'll tell you that I have never seen one. I've never seen one, but I think it's a cold thought. They say there are millions of galaxies which contain, I guess, tens of millions total planets.
Right.
I think it's selfish and sort of asinine to think we're the only ones here,
Exactly. The arrogance of us thinking.
Yeah, that's a great word, the arrogance of it. I mean, come on. And
exactly.
You know what? Compare a civilized person in a civilized society to someone that's still in the Amazon along the riverbanks to have no clue about what's going on here. We're alien to them. So
exactly.
Why couldn't there be this?
Absolutely.
Having said that, and I've talked to my past, it really flies in the face of religion somewhat. I guess, I don't know.
In a way.
I go back.
And that's going to be a brilliant conversation, right? Because I think, and again, I'm a man of faith as well, right? So I think it's interesting that, do aliens really fly in the face or question the existence of God? And for me, I don't think so. But again, that's going to be a conversation that I look forward to having with you as a follow-up as well. But I think it's always, again, depending on your faith and everything else, but it's a good conversation, and it's something I look forward to. What are you up to, Jim? What do you want to plug with all the viewers, or tell everyone, what you're up to or what you've been doing?
Well, what I've been doing is I've been retired. Like I say, I worked in the police force for 29 years and retired from there in 2008. I'm 67 years old now. After that, I took a little hiatus just as my daughter said, to get my head screwed on. Because, I tell you, being in the job I had and seeing what humans do to other humans and everything, it sort of does something to you. And actually, in her senior year, my wife drove out and took my daughter. She wanted to drive back across country, so
okay,
they did that, and it was cool for them. And then I drove her back in the fall. And when I got out to ASU, and I'm real upfront with my kids. I mean, the only way, if you want them to be truthful, you got to be truthful, to a near point. But we're walking across campus, and we go past Hayden Hall, and we're headed to my favorite spot, Box. And
God bless Chuck Box.
Oh, I love it. My first stop. My wife would tell you.
Yes, sir.
When I land in Phoenix, before we'll go to the hotel, go and stay at the Mission Palms.
Yes.
We put our bags in. I said, "Let's go." We walked to Chuck Box, and I get it. But anyway,
we were driving back to Arizona last year in September for my daughter's quinceañera, and my younger daughter just had gallbladder surgery. She was 4 days out of the hospital at Stanford Children's. We drove down, ate at Chuck Box, and then continued down the 2 because I'm like, no way I'm going through the 10 and not having Chuck Box. So
it's great. I hope it stays forever.
We are, by the way. So you're asking about that. So you know how ASU's building up, by the way.
I know, but
Chuck Box is 2 years away from historical status. So if we can leave them up for 2 more years, ASU can't buy the property and burn them down for a building. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Well, let me tell you, last year when we were out, and I went over and I talked to the guy that was the manager at the time, and I was telling him, hey, I was here before you were born, the whole deal, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I said, man, I am so happy that whoever owns this now has not caved in to the money that I'm sure he's getting offered. And he said, listen, this guy, that's the least of his worry. He doesn't worry about the money. He will not sell to anybody. He's keeping this here as long as he's alive. So I think we're in good shape, my friend.
As long as we're in good shape,
I think we're in good shape. But anyway, my daughter, we walked across campus and I saw a bunch of kids standing there and guys doing nothing. And I looked at her and I said, what the hell that motley crew's up to? And she stepped in front of me, put her hand on my chest. She said, Dad, you got to get out of your job because listen to you. It's just a bunch of college kids hanging out. You think they're always up to something. So what I've been up to is, in words, she said, rejoin the human race. I did that, worked another 8 years in the federal enforcement. I've been retired now from everything except my kids and my family for a year. And that's where all my attention's gone, to all them. Doing a lot of fishing. Yeah, love it.
I can't wait to talk about some of those. And we're going to do this again, my friend. But you know what?
Okay, buddy.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays to you and yours, my friend. Again, thank you for indulging me for the past 3 hours. I cannot thank you.
Thank you, man. And I love what you're doing. And go Devils.
Go Devils, my friend. Go Devils.
Feel free. Like I said, my email, I got time on my hands. They can do whatever. They can text me.
Yes, sir. Well, actually, one more comment from Paul Horson. You may actually enjoy this one. This was about the Chuck Box.
Right on, Paul. I'm with you, brother.
Yes, sir.
I will fly out there for that. I will do that. Absolutely.
We will do all that. And Paul, make sure you send me an email. Want to connect you with Jim so this way we can all chat and have a conversation, especially since Jim wants to watch some of the hockey games. I know you can help us make that one happen. So,
all right.
Jim, I appreciate you. All the love to you, all the love to your family, all the love to your kids and all your grandkids. Thank you so much, my friend. Enjoy the game tomorrow. We're doing, you know what it is? We're doing a virtual tailgate tomorrow.
Okay.
Where we're going to warm up. It's about 8:00 your time, 5:00 Pacific. I will send you an email. Hopefully you can join. Lots of fans. We would love to see you there.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me on. And thank you for all the Sun Devil fans.
I appreciate you, my friend.
Take care.
We will talk again. I will call you hopefully before Christmas, my friend.
All right. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas to you, man. Thank you so much.
All right, buddy.
Absolutely. Everyone, thank you so much for an amazing show. We had it on 3 different platforms, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. So it has been amazing. So thank you, everyone, for being a part of this. Talking with Jim, it was an amazing conversation. I just can't wait to do this. And I'll share this one all on our social media platforms as well. If you want to be part of the virtual tailgate tomorrow, send me an email, jediasu@gmail.com, and I will make sure to invite you. Thank you, everyone, for being on. I love you. I cannot appreciate you enough for being on here. Make sure that you share that love with everyone else. Love yourself and love those around you. And as always, good night. Enjoy the game tomorrow, and we will see you in a few weeks. Good night.